Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight's going to be an awesome show. We have Andrew Radziewicz back for the second appearance here for hour one. And then hour two, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to do the After Hours wrap-up and what we normally do in hour three. So we're going to shift some things around a little bit here. But we have our guest for hour one, and we have Drew Banke for hours 2 and 3. As we go ahead and chart uncharted seas tonight, right here at Space Out Radio After Hours radio show, I want to go ahead and give out the medal positions for the night, courtesy of Race Fan, and I love it. Race Fan keeps us on top of the game here. Race Fan has shown me that the gold tonight will go to Race Fan. Then the silver goes to Laura Lobbs. And then the bronze goes to Paranormal. So definitely appreciate you guys all coming on in. Let me see who else has come in the interim. We have Latchkey Hustle in the building. Appreciate you showing on up. We got Fast Timmy. Fast Timmy is here. Thank you for coming in, Fast Timmy. We got some Mothman. Greetings, space travelers. Greeting right back to you. We got Roger Murray dropping knowledge on us. December 5th, 1945, 79th anniversary. Flight 19 vanished in Bermuda Triangle. People believe taken by alien abduction. Hey, I'm with you. Flight, what is that? MH370 may have met a similar fate, right? It vanished as well, and who knows what happened to that. We could do a whole show around that. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for keeping us educated, Roger Murray. Let's see. Who else do we have here? We got Brown Dwarf in the building. Good evening, Brown Dwarf. Appreciate you showing up. Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. Stargazer. Thanks for coming on in. It's cold tonight. It is definitely cold out here in California. That's a fact. And Tina Smith, thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up. Who else do we have here? We have... moving down the list here, Lars Jansen. Lars Jansen is here. Appreciate you showing up, Lars Jansen. Carl Bittner. Hi, Rob, and all you spacey after hour spaced out peeps. Appreciate you coming on in, Carl Bittner. Let's see. Who else do we have? Ange. Hey, Ange. Thanks for coming in tonight. As always, saying hi, Mr. Rob G and Andrew. Appreciate you showing on up. Let's see. Terrence Wills, appreciate you showing on up as we get ready to start the podcast side of this thing right about now. Welcome, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we have our guest, Andrew Radziewicz, for hours 1, and then we have Drew Banky, Steve Stockton, and a whole lot more for hours 2 and 3. Don't you go anywhere. Just make sure you stay right there as we get ready to start the radio end of this in about 10 seconds. Here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we'll be broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. Get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, rock out to the man you hear right there, Ron BUMBLEFOOT, and oh so much more. We're going to have an awesome show tonight. We have Andrew Radziewicz joining us back tonight for hours 1. Then hours 2 and 3, we get Drew Banky, Steve Stockton, and a host of other things, UFO weird news. You guys stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. As we go ahead and get this show started, we're just going to hop right into this thing. So let me go ahead and bring up our guest for the night. You loved him the first time. I'm sure you'll love him again the second time. None other than Andrew Radziewicz. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back on. Thanks.
Man, they loved you the first time. I watched the show back a couple times. It was an awesome show. Your energy is just, it's out there and it's welcoming. There were some things. I was going through the conversation. I was like, there were a couple things that I didn't get to speak to you about that I wanted to bring up. So we're going to hop right into it because we just have you for hour 1 tonight. So I wanted to kind of get right into it and talk about the article that was written about you in the New York Post. I don't believe we covered that last time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can jump into it. Definitely.
Okay, so how did that come about, and what was it covering, and
Sure.
How did they pick you for this article?
Yeah. So I'm sitting on the beach in Brooklyn, Coney Island, New York, sitting on the beach with my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, Jess, and we're sitting on the beach hanging out, and my phone buzzes, and it's a text message through Instant Messenger on Facebook from some random editor at the New York Post. And it just basically said, "Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm writing an article about you, and we're dropping it tomorrow. Would you like to give a comment?" And I thought it was a scam. I'm like, I don't even know who this person is. Like, the big authors, if you know the New York Post and Times, the big names. And I'm like, I don't know who this is. So let me just take a look. So I just looked her name up. I Googled her and I saw previous articles she had written, which were all hit pieces on firefighters and cops. Like, she wrote an article that more firefighters were getting injured in the firehouse and in the kitchen than at actual fires. Like, now that's actually a good thing. I don't want anyone to get hurt at a fire. You know what I mean? So, but everything she did was political and geared towards that. So I'm like, oh my God. So I called a lawyer, Ray Hernandez from the Free Organization, who is an attorney and a contactee. And I know him through Mary Rodwell. And I'm like, Ray, what do I do? This lady said she's dropping an article. I don't even know who she is. I don't even know what she wrote. She won't send me a copy. He said, just give no comment. So I wrote back to her and said, don't do this, no comment. And I don't even see what you wrote. So how could I comment? I don't even know what she was going to write. You know what I mean? But I'm thinking, oh my God, I did an interview not too long ago where I'm turning blue, right? And all this other stuff. And they're going to put God only knows what in the paper. So then I had to call the fire department, the New York City Fire Department press desk, who handles matters with the papers and the news. And I had to tell them everything. I called them and said, okay, I told them what happened. I got a call. And then I just said what I've been doing on my time off from work. I go outside, I'll have contact with UFOs. And then on my days off, I'm a psychic medium. I've been giving people readings, not as a business. I've just been reading people for nothing on my days off for the last 8 years, whatever it was at the time. And they were like, okay, we don't have a problem with that. So they called the Post and said, don't run the article. The guy doesn't want it, meaning me. I want nothing to do with it. Just leave him alone. And the Post was relentless. They were like, no, he works for the city. The city has a right to know. They're like, but why are you going to even write this? The guy doesn't want anything to do with this. They have a right to know he's a city employee. So they wrote the article. They mentioned where I lived, how much I made, and then my contact and my psychic work. I don't see why it has anything to do with what I make or where I live. You know what I mean? But they put that in there. I'm sure they probably edited it because they didn't release it right away. They waited about 3 weeks. Then they ran it. So they might have edited whatever out. And what I thought at first was going to be a curse, of course, in the end, ended up being a blessing. But I did not want any part of that. I didn't want to approach that with the guys I worked with. Like, hey, I'm in the newspaper. Look at me. It wasn't like that when I got into this. And I didn't want to come across like that. I would have rather have just organically had this conversation with the guys. You know what I mean? So that's what I was most concerned with. I didn't want to come across like, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm in the newspaper now. I really didn't want any part of that. It kind of just happened. And then everything else just took on a life of its own after.
And what year was this?
2018, July of 2018. They ran the article, I believe, July 21st.
Okay.
If people listening, it was on page 6 on Sunday. Page 6 is the big part of the New York Post where they cover all the dirt and all the celebrities and, who's doing this and that. It's a lot of crazy stuff. I was on that, the first page of page 6 on Sunday.
See, I was going to ask you, how do you feel in hindsight the media treated that aspect of your story?
So it's interesting. When that came out, of course, it's actually really interesting. Nobody in ufology would touch the article. And at that time, all anyone was doing was crying, saying, there's no credible witnesses out there. There's no people with real jobs, like whatever they were saying. And I didn't ask for this, but I thought, well, there you go. There's an article with somebody that is in the line of service. And I have, proof, videos and blah, 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 all this stuff. Whatever, it's more than just a story. And none of them would touch it, like the big UFO researchers. But I was like, well, you know what? It's out. It is what it is. And then now, though, if you look back at the article, everything, all these whistleblowers and everything that they're talking about and the Nimitz sighting and all those things came out way after. I've been talking about these things for years. And, like you and I, just people online, friends I knew, CE5 groups. Now, because people that work for the government are testifying at the Pentagon, now everyone is like, oh, it's okay to talk about it now. They must be real. But, I guess I was one of the first people to I didn't want to, but like kind of be in the news and sharing what I experienced. Because they took bits out of interviews I did online, which if I say something online, I stand behind it. That's my experience.
So so that's a great segue into the UFO hearings that were recently had. I think those happened since the last time we talked. Though that, and then also the Arrow hearing. What did you get from that, or what were your feelings after you watched that?
Yeah, awesome. One of my friends was there. He went to both hearings. Keith Taylor. People can look him up. He works for the UAP Med. It's a volunteer organization that works with contactees and first responders. Sometimes people have health effects or all sorts of things going on if the contact. He actually was there in person. And then I personally know some people that were on the UAP task force. Now, not all of them testified that day, but I know that there are sitting members of Congress that are contactees, which is why this is all happening. And recently, too, there was somebody on the UAP task force that has come forward that has admitted to being a psychic medium and a UFO contactee. So kind of like what I've been saying all over, throughout the years. Yeah, I make contact. Oh, I have psychic abilities. People are like, yeah, right, that's nonsense. There's someone that was on the task force doing the same thing, and they didn't kick her out. They kept her in the group. She was doing her thing. And she's done some interviews. Sarah Gann, people might know who she is. She's done some interviews now, and she's spoken about what she experienced, because if they didn't kick her off the team, that means they're well in tune to what's going on. I know they are. And that's refreshing to see that it's not only just, people that are out here that are having experiences and psychic abilities. It's some of our own people that are working with the government. And at least they're admitting it now. That's the thing. Rob, a couple years ago, 10 years ago, when my article came out, nobody came forward like, oh, yeah, I know what this guy's talking about. I've done it too. I've seen it too. It was dead silence, radio silence. Now, oh, yeah, everyone wants to talk about it, of course.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about it, because the more we realize that most people have likely had an encounter, then we can count on those people to have that awakening moment where it's like, you know what, I need to just come forward and admit it. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, which is definitely awesome. What do you think about as well the recent drone swarms? For me, and I'll tell you afterwards, how do you feel about those stories? Because not only did we have the one they admitted to in 2023, but then we also had another one, and then one in the UK recently. What do you think about those drone swarms?
So these types of sightings have been going on forever. The mere fact that on the ground, boots on the ground, servicemen are filming them now. One thing to remember, I've been in this journey a long time, filming, videotaping, using an iPhone, getting terrible footage sometimes. Sometimes you're going to film something and you're seeing something and you're like, wow, I can see this. Then you film it and it doesn't come out quite the way that you see it with your eye. And then there is misidentification. I've done it. We've all done it. All people that have been around this. Sometimes you think you see something and then you film it, or somebody else looks and goes, oh, no, man, look on the satellite chart. That's, something else. That's why it's good to check with multiple people before you reveal something. Now, I think the servicemen and the people out there are being genuine, and they're flooding the internet now with all of these photos, which I think is great. There's a guy you might have heard of. Have you ever heard of Cliff High?
Sounds familiar.
So basically, and your listeners might be well aware of this, Cliff High basically created WebBot. There's a thing called WebBot, and they make predictions based on the internet and computers. They make these future predictions. They made predictions about 9/11, Bitcoin, all sorts of world events. And Cliff High in 2009 said, he said in 2009 that Donald Trump would be interviewed by Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan just started his podcast in 2009. And he said, when that event happens, it's going to trigger 39 days later a massive UFO event where he claimed that UFOs would be shooting at each other, attacking each other on the ground, all sorts of things. So Joe Rogan just interviewed Trump not too long ago. December 3rd / the 4th will be 39 days after that statement. Now, we were going to get into remote viewing too. This is all tied in. So Cliff High as well. You can look this up. You can run the video about this. Future Forecast is the remote viewing agency, which is pretty reputable. They did a remote viewing on this years ago, okay, before the interview happened, during the last election. And what they etched out and sketched, they sketched out Trump, Rogan sitting at a table, and they actually wrote out the topics that they were going to discuss. But the remote viewing session was done in 2020.
Wow.
So, for example, they wrote out like, Stormy Daniels, Russia, Epstein, and they're going to be laid back in an open script. This is from 2020. You can look at the sketching from this. And then now, right, they finally had the interview in supposedly 39 days later. We're only a day or two away. And they're saying, these remote viewers and Cliff High are saying, it's not always 100%, but this seems to be leading in that direction because of the event that happened. It has to be an event to ignite something else. And hey, who knows? In 2 days, man, nothing might happen. Me personally, I don't have any knowledge. I haven't gotten any downloads, anything like that is happening. But I don't doubt science and people that are looking into these things. I think it's worth investigating and talking about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Someone brought that up yesterday, the date December 3rd, and I didn't know what it correlated to.
Yes.
And so this is what it is. Okay. And what was that agency? You said Future Forecaster?
So Cliff High is the guy, and then he went to the Future Forecasters. They have a YouTube page, and it's right up there. It's one of the hot ones. You could look up the Cliff High event remote viewing, basically, and it's like an orange and white piece of paper. You could pop that up, and you'll see they wrote out the topics that they literally spoke about 4 years later. I mean, that's amazing. That's absolutely, that part's amazing. Now, is there going to be some sort of giant event? I could say this. If there is ever some sort of event where there's craft and other craft and they're engaging, going at each other, I personally believe that that would be some sort of Project Bluebeam or some crazy type thing, because the extraterrestrials and the beings that I've communicated with over the years have never shown me any malicious intent. And if they did, and they had malicious intent, we wouldn't be here. They wouldn't wait until we've had nuclear weapons. They would have wiped us out in the 1940s before we had nukes. You know what I mean? So to me, it doesn't make sense. That to me, they're peaceful. They've evolved past that. But humans and other type of agencies that are still sick in the head want you to believe that there's a threat. So if they ever stage something like that, I don't think it would be extraterrestrial in nature at all. That's just my personal belief.
What do you think about the selection of whistleblowers, the people they had testifying, the witnesses for the hearing? What do you think of that group? Do you have any opinions on any of them? Were they good for you, or what do you think?
Yeah, so like I said, I know some of the Congress members, and I know some people that were involved with that on the other side of the listening part, you could say receiving, okay? And they were not happy that they were coming and basically promoting their books. They talk about all these things before they came to testify. And then Anna Luna and a couple other people spoke today publicly. You can see it on Twitter. And they shared all the stuff. They came in and testified, but then they said, I can't answer that. So once again, I don't have a problem with people coming forward, but if you're giving a mixed message, I think that just muddies this water, and that's part of the problem, not the solution. The solution is going to be, to me, when they get regular people or whoever, even if it's ex-military or intelligence, that can come in and go, I'm going to share everything with the public. I don't care what happens to me. I'm willing to die for this. If they call me tomorrow and said, come up there and testify or say whatever done. There is no closed setting. I would share everything I know, and there's other contactees, the same thing. Why hide that? When you're holding on to something, when you're hiding something, now you're a threat, and now you're in danger. That's very dangerous. Once you come forward and start sharing, you better dump it all or tell somebody, because if you don't, now you're a target, and that's real dangerous. So they're either playing a game with us, acting like they're in danger, or these guys that came forward and gave the half-truths, they're going to be in some danger, man. That's serious business there.
Great point. Great point, actually. And what do I had an opinion on the fact that they had a journalist there as one of the witnesses. And the journalist, at least, and I made this point that at least the other three could say, hey, I'll talk to you about it in the skiff. Whereas a journalist has to sit there and say, I can't reveal my sources. So it's like, you'll never get the answer from that journalist. So why include that person on the panel? And so I kind of had a problem with that. I don't know if you felt the same way. Like what is the and going to your point on, if you're going to release information, release it all, because you become a target. So it just seems really strange that they would have a journalist up there and all he could say is, sources and methods, or protecting my sources. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and somebody asked in the comments, they said, what is a regular person? I mean, somebody that can come in and speak openly and go, oh, that's classified. Oh, I got to be brief. Stop it. Enough. You've talked on all these interviews. You got on News Nation. You've done all the stuff, whatever. Share that now with the public on the record. Because if you don't, You could lie, you could say whatever you want, but when it comes down to it, and you're sworn under oath and you might go to prison and now you're not answering, of course, it's common sense for people to go, I don't know about that. So I think what they're doing is, right, once again, the people in Congress, though, at least, and people that were there, they're catching on and they're getting fed up. And they're going to get regular, meaning regular people, contactees, people that are ex-military, government, they're going to go, I'll share everything. I don't care. If your life was really threatened or harmed, or they were going to hurt you or your family, dude, it's game over. If somebody did that to me and I was holding on to something I'm not holding on to, but if I was holding on to something, done. I would immediately, I wouldn't wait till I would dump it viral and then go to dump it all, man. Screw them. And I would drop their names of the people that were coming and threatening and harming my family. That's sick. If you, by you not saying their name and not revealing that, you could dump it publicly at Congress and end this. So they're continuing this nonsense. And I have never, I won't stand for that. I don't roll with people like that. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm just a dude with a story. I know what I've seen. I share it to you like I would share it to Gary Nolan at Stanford, like I would share it to Ross Coulthard, or I would share it at Congress, or I'd share it with my mom. It's the same thing. I don't change my story. It is what it is. And I wish other people could feel that comfortable to just go, I don't know all the answers, but here's what I think. Why don't we share everything? That's the only way we'll get to the truth.
So then, if you were a whistleblower, then would you violate your NDA in order to for something like this that would benefit humanity? Would you take that risk?
If they are committing a crime against humanity, that breaks the NDA, man. Right. Like, as far as I know, and the whistleblowers I know, and Greer, people love Greer, they hate Greer, but Greer would even say, if you're committing a crime against humanity, the NDA is out the window. Like that's that. There's certain things where, once again, that's why they were trying to get these protections for some whistleblowers. So I'm just speaking out loud, like Elizondo and people that have come forward. I don't know who they're going to get protection or not, but they should have gone to someone already at the Pentagon or wherever to speak openly, like you're doing something in a classified program that is a crime against humanity. No, man, that's got to, to me, that's got to end. I don't want, and I've never signed an NDA. I would never sign an NDA. No, thank you. I don't want to get involved with that. That is insane. But if I saw something that was unethical or violated someone's human rights as a human being that affected my family or my neighbor, or nah, bro, it's out. I'm not holding on to that, because you're losing sleep. You wouldn't be able to rest. You wouldn't be able to sit right with that. And then what, on your deathbed, you're going to tell everyone? No one's going to believe you. Enough. It's got to end.
That's true. That's true. And when I say that, I try to make it not sound like I'm being selfish. Like, hey, I just want a particular person to kind of put it all on the line. I say that because I would do that. I would put it all on the line for humanity. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. And like you said, technically, you shouldn't be able to enforce an NDA if it's a crime against humanity. And then if it's not really related to anything top secret, you can't make extraterrestrials top secret. There's no way that you could do that, or their tech. Our tech, okay, maybe, but I don't see a world where you can really, you can put a lock and key on someone speaking about that if they saw it or if they heard about it. So that is actually pretty awesome to get you to kind of elaborate on that. So we're going to go ahead and go into government intentions. Like, what do you think the government intentions are as we get ready to go into this first break? I don't, if you could give us maybe one word that kind of leading into the other half of the break.
Oh yeah, it's flat out. I think most people in there are good people, but you got the few that are connected well. So it's the deception. So even if you have 75% awesome or 90, you got 10, but they got connections, they're going to change the law. So, but if enough of us get together eventually, we'll do what we got to do. That's why we got to come forward. We can't be afraid of them. That needs to be called out. Someone just commented in there about
we'll get to that comment and more right on the other side of this break. We have our guest Andrew Radziewicz going deep on hour one right here at Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. And I'm glad I had these other points that I wanted to get with you on. So, and then as far as like, we'll reschedule for another time as well, right? So, I'll send you some information now that we have this thing figured out. This the thing is when I'm the one that's booking guests, right? So, I don't think of the differences in time and then the time zone. I mean,
It's all right. Yeah, man. I didn't even think.
yeah, you know what I mean?
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
I'll
So
arrange it next time so I have more. Now I know. Like, but just once in a while, this will happen, man. It's all right.
my fault. My
No,
fault.
no, no. It's okay. It's all right, man. It's the holidays too. I'm doing a million things, and you know how it goes, man. Kids, family. Oh my god, nonstop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I do see your question, Paramar. I'm gonna pose that before the end of the hour, so don't you worry about that, my friend. And Deb from Sacramento, thank you for your support tonight. Rob and Andrew, great conversation tonight. Yeah, we're jumping right in it. We're getting right to the meat and potatoes. Richard Minnick, also thanks for your support. Thanks, Andrew and Rob G. That's what we do. That's how we do. We will continue to do what we do. So you guys don't worry about that. Also want to welcome others that have come in tonight. Let's see. Who else did I not see before? Jay True Seeker, thanks for coming in. Rich Buddy, thanks for showing up. Karen in the Woo Train. Who else do we have? Our Way Man. Okay, thank you for coming in. Excuse me. Let's see. Brian Novak, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Let's see. Yeah. And I didn't see the question last key, but I just asked this one: would he risk going to jail to test this legal theory? I'm totally on board with. You got to take. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to take one on the chin, and
Yeah.
just hope the people will kind of rally behind you, which I think would happen actually.
This is the thing. I have met some of these people, and even they claim they'll go testify, blah blah blah, whatever nonsense. You'll have a conversation. You think they're on board, and then it gets close, and they don't go testify. And I know plenty of them. That's so wrong. You're dragging people along, right? Like fetching a dog and dragging a bone along, and then pulling it away from. That is so wrong. And this topic is such a big deal. You know what I mean? This affects everybody. So somebody commented in there before about Freemasons being, satanic or whatever. I just want to share. I know a bunch of Freemasons. I'm definitely not one, but I know Freemasons. And my understanding, they could be whatever religion they want. So yes, some might be into Satan, some might be into religion, God, Judaism, whatever the thing is. They're not all just one thing. They do whatever they want. They can come from many different backgrounds, but they all do their thing, and they don't answer any questions. I tried to get information at them. Hey, man, tell me about the 33rd degree. But they don't ever talk, at least the ones I know, at all.
Mm-hmm. And Bob Thorson, thank you for your support of the channel here. Let's see. Hillbilly Herb is saying if Andrew's doing any on-air readings later, would you be open in the future to doing something like that, Andrew?
Yeah. And a guy just commented there too, Brian Novak. He commented in here before that I read him on Friday. Thank you for coming in and sharing that. He said, thank you. It was 10 out of 10. So, people always ask, who have you read? Is anyone around? If you guys are in the chat, feel free to ask Brian whatever his experience was like. I will never share that I've read anyone. That's private between me and them. But if they come share it, then that's their business. So no problem at all. Thank you, Brian.
Awesome stuff. We got about a minute left here to go before we come back. Jimmy J. Jordan Gonzalez. Appreciate you showing on up. My parents got attacked by a gnome and then it disappeared. That's pretty freaky, pretty creepy. Let's see. Okay, going back here. Jim White, I see you out there. Hey, Rob. Hey, Jim. Thanks for showing up. We have to talk again too soon, Jim. So I'll be reaching out to you pretty soon here. And let's see. Okay, I think that's about Yeah, Blue Cruise. Blue Cruise. I almost missed you. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing up tonight. Blue Cruise. You got about 20 seconds. All right, here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are joined back with our guest, Andrew Radziewicz, right here for hour one, getting right back into the conversation. If you missed any of it, definitely hop in the archive, youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio, where you can get what you missed. Don't forget, also, you can follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show. We do appreciate you coming in as well. So jumping right back into it, right before the break, Andrew, we were talking about government intention and what the real intent, why are they holding this back? Let's dive into that if you wouldn't mind. What do you think?
And the number one reason is abductions, whatever they are, real, not aliens, humans pretending like aliens, whatever it is. If they're not, but if they were aliens, that's horrendous. You can't admit that. Now, if they are people that are working in programs, classified programs, and they're staging abductions, like Richard Doty has spoken about. Richard Doty spoke about a classified program that still exists today. In a Dr. Greer interview, he said the program still exists where they dress up, they go out, and they'll abduct people, and you don't even leave your bedroom. But you think you're being taken out and taken on a craft and poked and prodded, put back, and you haven't. That's why you end up back in your bed. You haven't even left. And you think everything's happening. That technology was ran in the 80s. That's scary to think what they have today. So unfortunately, I know real contactees that have had that done to them. So they have real good contact and then something messed up. So then they think it's evil aliens, but it's really us, meaning humans. So people that worked on those teams, though, those stage abduction teams, have come forward to Dr. Greer and Danny Sheehan and other people and said, hey, I'm an old man. I got kids. I don't want to deal with this on my conscience anymore, but I was part of this. I did do this. I partook in it. Now, maybe aliens were abducting people years ago. I don't know. I can't say that. I've never been abducted. I don't have any recollection of that. Okay. But I'm just saying, I don't doubt anyone's story or what they've been through. But that is why I personally think they'll never come out and go, oh, yeah, this is really going on. Because if that came out, and they know at Congress already, but if that came out publicly, oh, boy. And they're paying for service members, health bills, the people that have touched craft, people that have come too close to them and got injured, John Burroughs and other people like that. And there's other people that have been attacked and all sorts of weird things that have happened to them. So there's a reason why, but they don't want to get into this. They don't want to touch this subject.
And what do you? I always ask this, but what do you think is the reason the government would do abductions? That's like one of the big questions.
Yeah. So if there's a fear narrative, once again, if me and the 30 people that I've made contact with since 2011 in New York, my CE5 contact group, the shiftrocks.org, look them up. Okay, they're in East Nassau, New York. None of us since 2011 till now, there's never been a craft landing and taking people and poking and prodding. It's been a beautiful experience. However, people have had some sort of weird experiences go on in their home. Whitley Strieber, people will talk about these awful experiences like that. Now, once again, torturing and harming one another, to me, that sounds very human. That sounds like, someone's mad at someone, they want to go hurt him. An evolved species that is 50, 100, 200 years down the road, if they're still poking and prodding each other and they have nukes and we have nukes and they still have them, they wouldn't exist anymore. They would have wiped each other out. So I just can't wrap my head around that. That to me, I can't see that. I just can't understand why they would poke and prod. And Greer said to me, he goes, Andrew, if they wanted your DNA, they just pick it up off the ground. It's all over the place. They don't need to take you up in a craft. What are you, great? Think about it. I'm like, okay, that sounds okay. But I know people hate him. He's a shill and blah, 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 blah. Once again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for Gray. At least I wouldn't.
Okay, so with that aspect, then how do you feel about the hybridization program that people talk about?
Yes, very interesting. That is really interesting. So I think that there definitely could be species out there that are older or not well, they're dying off, and some of them could be breeding with humans. Now, is it knowingly? Is it not knowingly? Is it a past life agreement? Like, how could you really know, right? How could you have proof? I know people that say, I know for sure it's a past life agreement. I don't care. I'm all good. I'm in. And then other people that are terrified, saying, I'm waking out and I was pregnant. It's gone. I know girls that has happened to. Geraldine Orozco. I know girls that are out there that have claimed this has happened to them several times. And I don't doubt their story. I'm sure there's something to that. But they've also experienced being in deep underground bases, military bases. So I think it's a very, there's a mix too. They could be, crossbreeding to keep them going. And then I think that there could be other factions that are messing with people. And if a species is evolved and they looked at us, right, like ants, right, like we look at ants or test rats, we're not caressing them, explaining, hey, we're going to cut you open just to see if this drug works. No, we're just doing it. So they could be evolved for 500 years down the road looking at us like, we're going to die. We just need to do this. And my understanding, too, is some of the ETs do not have the same or any emotions that we do. So they might look at us at a sporting event saying, what are you guys getting crazy for? I don't understand. What is that? Why does that get you guys excited? They just look at you. I've been at concerts, I've been at big sporting events, and I've seen craft. And I always wondered why. And I've heard from people because they're interested. They're like, wow, why are you guys doing this? What are these emotions? Some of them have emotions, don't, or they have a mix or a weird combination. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that definitely is. I mean, you figure they see a group of people, 50,000 people together, and wonder why they're clustering up in this group. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Now, last time we talked, I know you talked about some species that you had personally been in contact with. What I wanted to know was what type of races do you think are out there? A lot of people say there's 50, that some people say more than that are visiting. Yeah. What is your opinion on that?
And somebody commented that ETs have technology to see deeper into your DNA. 1,000%. And for a human, what do? The more I meditate, the more I expand, the more contact I have, more psychic ability, all of that. And the scientific community is extremely interested in that. So I know there's something to that. The more we get into it, yes, the ETs are aware as well. It works vice versa. I just wanted to share that. Could you just repeat your question, man? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, just looking at the extraterrestrial races, there's supposedly a lot of them out there. How many do you think are out there?
Oh my God. So I had seen a craft one night where I lived in Brooklyn. And from what I saw, right, I'm not talking with my third eye and my hallucination. No, I mean, from what I saw with my own eyes, I saw about 20 different looking beings. Not one of them was the same. They just looked different. One was gray, one was orange, one looked like, and I'm like, now, is this a projection? Is this the real physical thing? Let's not go there. Right now, I just saw a lot of different things, meaning sometimes they're far away and they can project themselves to you. And if they come in the physical flesh, they can only hold the vibration here for a few seconds because the toxins in the environment would kill them, at least the ones I've interacted with. So a lot of times you see things and you're like, that's a hologram. To me, no, that's not. They're projecting the craft, that they're projecting themselves to you because they can't hold the vibration here, or there'd be some negative intervention by the military, blah, 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 blah. So they're not going to put you at harm. But basically, there's several different types of races. How many? I know that a guy testified with Greer and said, there were like 96 species. It's limitless. I can't even say because the cosmos is infinite, right? But I have seen several. What have I seen? I've seen ones come out of the earth, come out of the water where I lived in New York. Same thing here, right? And then I've seen them come from the sky, and I've just sometimes seen them just appear and then gone that quick. And there's very little talk. When I have a conversation, I'm not sitting there for an hour with them. It is really fast. Sometimes it's just one word or no words. Sometimes they're just observing. They just come, look, and then gone. Kind of like oh, well, like you're interested in something. You just look at something in the sky. You just see it quick. They see us and then boom, it's gone. But I know that something is happening because I could physically see it. I'm recording something. But yeah, I think that, oh my God, I can't even count. There's got to be at least 100. I don't have an exact amount.
So, and I know we also talked about Kit Green, right? You know, Kit Green, Gary Nolan, you were stating, and we know Gary Nolan was on the SALT conference saying that 100% aliens essentially have visited or arrived here. Kit Green was famous, well, one of the things for, saying that the alien autopsy video was real. But then it came out that it wasn't real. But then I guess there was some confusion as far as the video that everyone sees may have been a recreation from an original video. What do you think about that? What do you think about the whole alien autopsy situation?
So I have a very dear family friend that knows Kit as well. Okay. A trust person in my life, basically. So I might know a few things, might have an idea about a few things that maybe people just don't know, but there was a genuine video out, a real one. And then like anything, there's a recreation, the real authentic original thing, if anything, those things are tucked away. They're classified. I don't think they'll see the light of day. There might be recreations, once again, just to get people thinking and stimulated. I've seen one with the ET captured, having all the telepathy. Yes, when I have contact, it's all telepathic. There's a lot of them do not have mouths. It's just all mental, and the heads are bigger because in the future, supposedly we evolve and our brains, our heads get bigger and we don't even talk at all. Like when you feel like my mom's going to call me or a relative's going to call me, I can feel it. And then I get a phone call. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Supposedly in the future, we tap more into our consciousness and our spirituality. We're in that age right now. And literally our heads are going to expand as you train a muscle. It gets bigger. As you train your brain more, eventually, I feel that there'll be an expansion.
What do you think, if you had to look around at the landscape, just videos, photos of potential extraterrestrials, which ones have you seen any, first of all, that you think are legit? And then if so, which ones would those be?
It's tough to tell with AI. I could usually tell a video if it's AI. Usually it's like, that's too perfect. You know what I mean? And yeah, they're going to be a little fuzzy. Why? Because like I said, sometimes, yes, there's a physical craft. That's very rare, though, the actual physical craft to get it close up. So a lot of times it's a projection, or if it does get close, it will be vibrating, pulsating. Okay. Literally like a shadow being, like a picture, like a shadow being. Some of the craft look like that, but they'll be seamless, silent, maybe one light, sometimes multiple, usually just one solid light, but no sound. And it's vibrating. Okay. And you do this enough, you have a feeling around you. So if I see a craft or I'm even looking at a video, at times, like I said, AI is tough, but sometimes I see one and I'll feel like, whoa, oh my God, I just feel, once again, feel some sort of connection with this. I feel like this is genuine. What is that feeling? When I see something in real time, the hair on my arms will stand up, literally on my feet, a little bit of hair I have on my feet, it'll stand up like that. I'm like, whoa, I get a weird feeling. Doesn't happen all the time in life, but it's only when the craft are around. I had a friend whose heart would race almost out of her chest. She's from Malaysia. Her name's Tanaya Tay. She wrote a book called Benevolent Contacts. I did C5 with her for my first time ever when I met Greer in 2011. Tanaya Tay, look her up. Her heart, I was with her. I could feel it racing out of her chest. She go, Andrew, grab my iPhone or my camera. There's a craft around. Bang. You couldn't see it, but through the camera, the craft would be around. So you get this feeling, and that usually is a good indication that the video or the craft that around you is the real thing.
Because we look around and we have videos like the alien autopsy video. We also have like the video I'm pretty sure you've seen this or heard of this, the one that Jon Stewart is going around promoting. He said he's done research on it. He says that he has key information about the people that may have been involved in that video where they're attending to an alien. What do you think about that video?
Yeah, Richard Doty said that, whether that's a recreation, but he saw something like that years ago, meaning that is real. That did happen. And that is something that I would say that if they actually got the physical body there, it would be something like that, especially whatever era that was filmed. It'd be total chaos. You know, it would have been, oh my God, it would have been total chaos. People would say to me, you know, what if they land or they come face to face to you? I said, me, I probably crap my pants if, you know, the physical being came and stayed for a day or two. Oh my God, at first, you know, staying there with you, and then you got to take care of the thing. That's very stressful. It's traumatic. You know what I mean? And then you got to deal with all the ridicule and all the crazy stuff after. Yeah, I shout out anyone that has the kahunas to share anything you film, whether it's not a craft or is, or who knows. Put it out there. Ask somebody. Ask a few people before maybe you post it, just to make sure. Put it out there. We're all going to make mistakes, man. We're humans. We're not angels walking the earth, man. Chill out. Everyone gets so worked up. I'm just glad we're all talking about this, because 5, 10, 20 years ago, I couldn't talk about this with anybody, and I felt like the biggest freak. And now anyone, I could talk to anyone, my neighbor, anyone out there about it. And times have changed.
All right, kind of turning a corner here. And thanks, Maggie and Tim, for your support of Space Out Radio. I see you out there. Thanks for coming in as well. You mentioned during the conversation last time that there were situations where you had, I guess, seen things that you didn't know what they were, potentially cryptids. We were talking about Sasquatch at the time. You talked about a group you were out with that had some sort of affiliation with CIA. And so what were you saying there? Were you saying that CIA is looking into cryptids, and like, do they have something going on there? Is that what you were trying to say at the time?
Yeah. So basically, I was sitting, this is crazy, but you know, anything can go sometimes. I'm sitting on the beach in Brooklyn. I go to a diner and I took a photo in a diner, but out of a window. And I just posted the photo, like a normal photo. And a guy from a Dogman group goes, dude, you got something in the window. Let me get this looked at. So I gave it to him, and it went to this group with literally scientists in it. And they're like, you got it. You got whatever, cryptid, Dogman, whatever you want to call, whatever this thing is, right? I wasn't sitting next to this thing taking a selfie. It was just in the distance, though. Whatever, weird things happen. And then I said, what's the deal with this? And he said that there's a military guy connected to Intel, CIA, right? Who was in his true story, sitting in his backyard. Guy was he was a Navy guy. His brother's in the CIA, well-known scientist. I can't drop his name. It's a classified thing, but I'll tell you the story. Too bad. So this is how it is. Guy sitting in his backyard smoking a cigarette. He looks and he sees a flame from a cigarette. He looks, and there is something in a trench coat with a hat, but it is a dog. The guy was armed with a firearm, though. He pulled the firearm out and shot. Thing was gone. And he called his brother, who is a well-known CIA intel officer, well-known scientist. They came, they looked it out. And when I met Gary, this is not Gary Nolan, though, but when I met Gary Nolan, he had said to me, Andrew, if you have anything messed up happen or poltergeist, anything wild in your house, let me know, because we have teams that can come out and help you. I'm like, what, like Ghostbusters, bro? Like what? And basically, yeah. And I never had anything like that happen, but I heard that story about that other scientist from a very credible relative of mine. So I know it's real. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Looking at the dog man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean,
whatever
not
it is.
surprising. Right, exactly. It's not surprising because too many people say that they see these things. So if they're here, you would assume the governments are definitely on top of that. And then when we were talking about that last time, you also stated that when you saw, a UFO, that you saw also something you didn't understand and could have been a cryptid. You went on to say that you felt like these cryptids were like cousins to aliens. What were you saying? What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So just people know too, I've had some of that contact in Brooklyn. Then I used to live in the Hamptons. Okay. Long time ago, but not far from the Hamptons is Montauk. And I've been out to where the Stranger Things, where it's based on Camp Hero. I've been in that building. I have pictures from inside I could share with you. Wow. I got in there past the camera security, took pictures inside there. I don't know how. We just got in somehow. Took photos, had all sorts of weird stuff going on with craft, with weird phenomena, with these weird things. I heard there were stories that happened there, but I know what I saw too and experience. And yes, Plum Island's not far, the Montauk Monster, all of those weird things out there. When I've seen craft, I've also looked next to me and I saw a person one time that I took a photo of, a human. But when I looked at the photo after, the person was blue. They were blue. I don't know why. And then around me too, as well. One night I was out there and I had taken photos of what people considered, whether it was a Bigfoot or a dogman, or I can't even put words to it, right? I don't have a term, right? There's no manual that I've seen that said, hey, that's what you saw. I'm just like, I don't know. It just gets really weird. I think it has a lot to do with what you think of. I think our consciousness can co-create a reality. Meaning, if you're with me, we're going to see something. If you're not with me, I might see something slightly different. You know what I mean? So we need to be careful about what we consume, because if we're too fearful or watching too much doom and gloom, you might be seeing some evil stuff or having some weird things happen around you. And it might just be our consciousness that we don't fully understand it. So we need to be really vigilant.
Okay. And when you said, so it feels like you may feel like the phenomenon is all interconnected. Is that fair to say?
I personally believe it is all interconnected. It's like wheels on a bicycle, and one's an NDE, one's an OBE, one's a UFO, one's a dogman, one's a Bigfoot. I think it's just, this is what I'm seeing, this is what you're seeing, but it's all tied into consciousness. And that is the ultimate secret that they do not want us to know, how powerful we actually are. How do we fix that? Start meditating.
All right. And I have a question real quick from Paramar from earlier. He asked, Andrew, have the ETs ever mentioned Project Bluebeam or maybe you've remote viewed it?
I haven't, and I asked Greer about that, and he said that's all nonsense. Predictions never happen because it's humans putting that out there. And I'm not saying, I don't know about December 3rd, 4th, whatever's coming up, but usually if the powers to be are aware of it, they're going to tweak it and do it some other day, or we have a guard down, right? Like 9/11 or anything else. No, I have not had any communication about that. Nothing. I hope I'd get a heads up if it was coming, right? But I have not had anything. If anything, all these people over the years, people have messaged me some wild stuff, bro, that it's going to happen, and nothing has ever happened. One guy I heard on the radio, this guy worked for NORAD, Stan Meyer, and he said before this happened, he said there was going to be a massive UFO event in New York City. He gave the date, and it happened. I heard him on Coast to Coast. Before it happened, he ended up dying, but it happened. There was a UFO sighting in Manhattan. Look him up, Stan Meyer. That's the only guy ever that got a download, shared it, and an event happened that I know of.
Okay, I'm definitely going to have to look at that.
Take a look at that. Check him out.
Now, with 1 minute left, actually, here, if you give a quick answer on this, what is your long-term view on how disclosure plays out?
Eventually, right, you're going to get people, and you're getting some on the inside, right, with military Congress, stuff like that, but that are literally what they call, I don't know, what call star seeds, contactees, whatever, but they're going to be on the other side too, where they're coming forward, and there's going to be enough of them where the tide is going to shift. We're going to get there, but it's going to take work. This is not overnight. This is a process. It's a marathon. So if you're in, you're in. There's no turning back. You're here for the ups, downs, the roller coaster. And I always look at it like, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it. But I know other people think like that too. So now a lot of like-minded people like that, we're all coming together. So we need more. We need more people to come forward and share what they've experienced. I don't care what comes out of Congress. Yeah, it's great if they admit the truth, but it doesn't change anything that I've experienced. It's just people that are NPCs are not awake right now. They might go, oh, wow, there's something to that now, bro. But I don't care, because it doesn't change what I know and what you know and the people listening know. We know what we've seen.
Awesome stuff, Andrew. I felt like we got a lot accomplished here in this hour, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that we get you back, because you have awesome energy. It's great to talk to you, and we definitely have to do this again. You can catch Andrew over at the Psychic Firefighter, psychicfirefighter.com, correct?
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Andrew, for coming on in. Everybody else, kick back, and we'll be back right after this break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own
Thanks, Rob.
Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. And everyone else, we will take this commercial break and we will be back right here in a moment. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. As we're going to go ahead and switch things up, do something a little different tonight. We're going to do our hour 3 business here in hour 2, and then we are going to use hour 3 to maybe do some AMA stuff. So get questions ready for Drew and myself for hour 3, and we'll make it a very interesting thing. As we got about 10 seconds here before we come back from radio here. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody, to Space Out Radio after hour number 2. We want to thank our awesome guest tonight, Andrew Radziewicz, who will be back for sure for another appearance here. Guys, don't forget, if you missed that interview, definitely hop in the archive, youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. We're going to definitely get you going there. As we get ready to go into hour number 2, we're going to start things off with Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. Let's go ahead and cue it up. Steve Stockton, let's go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Michael St. Laurent. 45-year-old construction safety worker and experienced hiker Michael St. Laurent went missing for 9 days in the wilderness of the North Vancouver backwoods. He scribbled pertinent information about himself onto his arm. His birth date, name, and social insurance number were sloppily scrawled there just in case he didn't make it out of the woods alive. This all started on November 13, 2011, near the Grouse Mountain Skyride, where, while hiking a trail, he suddenly and without warning became confused and disoriented, not knowing where he was going, and what was and was not even real. Michael's account is somewhat confusing and even contradictory, as he states he was hallucinating so badly for most of the time, it was hard for him to recall most of what had occurred during his 9 days of hell in the woods. Michael had planned to hike a roughly 8-hour round-trip trail. However, he was somehow held up and forced to spend the night in the deep wilderness. Fortunately for him, he happened to have not only a dry change of clothes, but a tarp with him, and managed to stay at least partially dry and semi-warm in the frigid Vancouver winter cold. Michael even prepared for a 2-day trip, though he expected to only stay 1, assuming he would be fine and ahead of the game in case anything unforeseen came up. Unfortunately for him, something did. It lasted much longer than the 2 days, though. Michael's mind was so foggy and muddled, however, that after becoming lost and veering off the main trail, he couldn't even manage to find any kindling there in the woods, despite the ability to make a fire by hand. For the next 7 days, he wandered aimlessly around the woods, dehydrated, hypothermic, and vividly hallucinating nonstop. He said his hallucinations included being at work, driving home, and even sitting down for a meal in his favorite restaurant. After just 3 days, he thought it had been 3 weeks. Although there were numerous hikers who passed through the area within view of him, Michael was seemingly totally unable to communicate with them in any way. Not for lack of trying, though, as he says he called out for help and did everything he could to get their attention, but to no avail. It was almost like he was invisible to anyone and everyone who passed him by. The only thing the searchers believed saved him was his somehow remarkable ability to remember to cover himself at night with a tarp. At times, he had even had to crawl as he developed a condition from wearing soaked footwear called trench foot. When speaking to the media after being rescued, Michael told them he had seen and heard the searchers looking for him, but was unable to communicate with them and gain their attention, and somehow he claimed they hadn't been able to see or hear him at all. The search and rescue teams deny ever being anywhere near the area Michael stated he saw and heard them. What prompted Michael to write down his personal information on his arm, just in case? He said himself it was a regular day and he had the entire hike planned out. Is it just a coincidence that this is yet another semi-experienced hiker who, for one reason or another, was separated from his group and ended up lost in the woods? What is prompting these people to put themselves in harm's way like this? Lisa Theris. 25-year-old Alabama resident and radiology student Lisa Theris had a couple of strikes against her already as far as anyone finding her when she became lost in the woods in Midway, Alabama for an entire month in July of 2017. She had severe bipolar disorder, and because of the crowd she was recently hanging out with, most who knew her thought she was just trying to get away for a while. After not being able to reach her at all in 5 days, her father eventually called the police and reported her missing. After searching the most obvious places and coming up with no sign of her, the police then caught up with the last 2 people known to have been in her company, who were also wanted in connection with the robbery of a hunting lodge. When the authorities finally did catch up with these 2 men, one of them claimed the other killed Lisa and had disposed of her body. This led investigators to bring dogs into the woods behind a local Walmart where she may or may not have last been seen, and where the 2 men said they had last seen her. The other man said she was not murdered, but had jumped out of the truck and ran into the woods for no apparent reason the last night they had been with her. Because of the conflicting stories given by the 2 men and their shady and criminal reputations, police decided to go ahead with the cadaver dog search of the woods. After all, Lisa had been missing an entire month, and the likelihood she could survive out there in the wilderness for that long was slim. Eventually, Lisa was pronounced dead, even as the police still searched for her body. 2 days after this pronouncement, however, Lisa stumbled into the road in front of a random vehicle that just happened to be driving by at that time. Lisa had collapsed onto the roadway and an ambulance was called. She was completely naked, covered in sunburns and bug bites, and it was said she wouldn't have lasted another day had she not made her way somehow to the main road to be found and given medical attention. She had lost 50 pounds, and it was considered miraculous that she had even survived at all. Her condition was barely stable. When she was finally able to recount her harrowing ordeal, she gave an extremely strange and seemingly nonsensical story about what she'd been through. She claims to have survived from eating wild mushrooms and berries and drinking muddy and mucky stream water. When asked how she had come to be in the woods in the first place, Lisa states she believes she was drugged and left there for dead. There is some question, however, as to how Lisa could have survived based on her claims. Number 1, she was legally blind and didn't have her glasses. Number 2, the berries she claimed to have eaten didn't grow in that area. And thirdly, mushrooms are made mostly of water and have no calories at all. Also, she would have gotten terribly ill, if not dying altogether, from drinking the water she claims to have hydrated herself with. What really happened to Lisa? How could she have eaten berries which didn't grow in the particular area? Was she making it all up, or had she possibly slipped into another dimension or something? Those are questions to which we may never have the answers. Michael Napinski. 45-year-old Michael Napinski of Woodinville, Washington, went on a hike in Mount Rainier with a friend on November 7, 2020. The 2 decided to separate below the Muir snowfield, with Michael snowshoeing to Paradise and his friend continuing on skis to Camp Muir. They were going to meet up at a designated time down near Paradise, close to where Michael was heading to. Suddenly and seemingly out of nowhere, Michael reports the weather turned to extreme whiteout conditions, which prohibited him from being able to see even an inch in front of his face. Obviously, this made it impossible for him to go any further. He recalls taking very small and easy steps to get himself slowly down the mountain, while still seeing nothing but the whiteout conditions ahead of him. This is the last thing he remembers before becoming confused about the next course of events. He says he thinks he fell, but can't be sure as he totally blacked out and has no memory of what actually occurred while he was blindly snowshoeing through the blizzard conditions. Needless to say, Michael didn't make it back to meet his friend near Paradise that evening and was reported as missing. 3 National Park search teams went out and conducted full searches of the area throughout the night, and because the temperatures being 16 degrees Fahrenheit and the whiteout causing minimal to no visibility, the searches were called off for the night. Early Sunday morning, however, the search teams went back out to look for Michael, though everyone's thoughts were grim and thinking the worst at this point. Because of the cloudy weather, too, the aerial searches weren't able to be started until late Sunday afternoon, nearly 24 hours after Michael had been reported as missing by his concerned friend. Helicopter searchers finally found Michael Napinski in the Nisqually River drainage, and by the time foot searchers got to him about an hour after he was first sighted, he was unconscious. He had a pulse, though weak as it was, when he reached the hospital, but went into cardiac arrest very shortly after arriving. the doctors began using the most advanced form of artificial life support available, which included bypassing his heart and lungs. Miraculously, or some say coincidentally, due to the location where he went missing and all the strangeness surrounding Mount Rainier itself, Michael was legally deceased for 45 minutes, yet was able to be brought back to life with no long-term negative effects. Although he remained unconscious for 2 days after his heart started beating again, Michael did wake up and come back to life suffering some frostbite and bruises and scratches, all of which will heal. Is it just a coincidence that this man, who had all of the same bizarre and seemingly random symptoms as so many of the other cases we've talked about here, was miraculously able to return from the dead after 45 minutes? That's not even supposed to be possible. What is really going on here? Danny Philippides. On February 7th, 2018, Danny Philippides ventured from his home in Toronto, Canada, to the Whiteface Mountains of New York for a seemingly typical ski trip with some co-workers. The 49-year-old firefighter went missing on the mountain when he separated from the group to go to his car and retrieve his cell phone, which he had initially forgotten to bring with him. He went off by himself, figuring he would be right back and go back to having fun with his friends and colleagues. However, that isn't what happened at all, and despite little bits and pieces that have come out since, we will perhaps never really know what happened to Danny Philippides. Despite having no memory of what happened after he started back down the mountain to go to his car for the phone, he believes he took a wrong turn on a children's ski slope. The doctors would later confirm that he did seem to be suffering from a head injury, but even that doesn't explain where Danny ended up after leaving his friends to run the quick and seemingly harmless errand. Once Danny was reported missing, a manhunt of epic proportions set out to try and find him. At least 6 government agencies joined the 2 local ski patrols and several volunteers in the search. Eventually, more than 135 volunteers searched the area he was last seen and the route he should have taken to his car, which was still parked in the exact same spot he had left it, with the cell phone inside, for a total of 7,000 hours, but to no avail. How could they possibly have known that Danny was at that time in a big rig truck hitchhiking across the country to California? Danny also remembers being dropped off in Sacramento, still wearing his ski clothes and with a brand new cell phone and, inexplicably, a haircut. He was eventually found wandering around the Sacramento Airport rental car facility's parking lot. He had absolutely no idea or clue as to how he ended up there or why. The authorities found him got the surprise of a lifetime when they learned he was the subject of a massive manhunt all the way on the other side of the country. Obviously, so did Danny upon learning the same information. What happened in those 6 days? Where did Danny get the haircut and the new iPhone? And what could have possibly led him all the way across a foreign country like that? More than 2 years later, and these questions still haven't been answered. They may never be either, as Danny has since chosen to remain quiet about the ordeal and has gone back to work in Toronto as a firefighter. Unfortunately, so many of these people who go missing and are found under extraordinary circumstances choose to remain silent about what they encountered, even the ones who remember very clearly. Is this another symptom caused by who or what is doing this to these people? The inability to express what happened? Or is it that there are just no words in our vocabulary to explain what they might have seen or experienced?
All right, Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries with our guy Steve Stockton, always coming with the creep stuff. And you gotta love his voice. His voice is just one of those voices that can read you the Sunday paper, the classified section, and make it sound very, very compelling and awesome. As we go ahead and get ready to move into our normally hour 3 thing, which is now tonight in hour 2, which is going to be the after hours wrap up right here with our guy Drew Banky. Let's go ahead and get ready. Bring him in. All right. The after hours wrap, Drew Banky. Drew, do appreciate you coming in, sir. How are you? How have you been?
Great. Doing great. It was a awesome conversation with the guest. It felt like some of the same stuff I've been saying, like exact same wording and everything. Like, it's just interesting times we're in right now, man.
Definitely, and it's we pretty much condensed a lot of stuff into that hour. We kind of did get to cover a lot of stuff, so I'm actually super glad that I had the things that I wanted to cover already marked off, so we could do it in that fashion. So that just the stars aligned for that one. That was great. And we definitely want to thank that guest, Andrew Radziewicz, for coming in, psychic firefighter, and I believe this is also being streamed over to his channel. So hello to everyone over there at the Psychic Firefighter YouTube channel. This is the After Hours radio show. We do this show Saturday and Sundays, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Consider coming on over, hitting the subscribe button, and checking us out. We have a lot of great content. And actually, we run shows here 7 days a week. 7 days a week, you'll find live content. You get me on the weekends. Dave Scott is Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. So 7 days a week, you'll find some really great stuff here. And we'd appreciate you coming over and saying hi as we go ahead and get into this here. So, Drew, we talked about a number of things, actually, and I still have the list here. So we talked about the drone swarms over the military bases. Right? Are you familiar with that story? The whole thing that's
I haven't. No. Fill me in. What's going on? What happened?
Well, they had the come out in the news recently that we had drone swarms over Langley, the military installation in 2023. I think it was December 2023. Then we recently, and the story was painted as, from what I've read, from what I saw, it was painted as if these were regular drones. That's how they positioned it. Then there was another story that had come out where it was the same situation. Drone. I can't think of the second base, but I know it happened again. There was a third base, which was in the UK, that they are now also saying that these regular drones are swarming these bases. So to me, and this is what I was saying originally, and kind of is showing itself now, is that this seems to be just the powers that be kind of stepping in, trying to kind of muddy the waters and make it appear that the actual orbs and UFOs that have been visiting these nuclear plants and shutting down these nuclear missiles, that they're trying to show people who don't know anything about this or ufology that, hey, these things they're talking about are just regular drones, guys. There's nothing to worry about here. There's nothing to see here. They're only talking about quadcopters. But my whole problem with that is, and you could let me know if I'm right or wrong on this, right? You are a veteran here. Is there ever a point where the government is going to allow someone, foreign adversary, or just a random person, even if they're a citizen, to sit outside of a military installation and fly quadcopter drones over that installation? Do you see a place where that happens, where that's possible?
I mean, there could be when they're testing new equipment. You know, somebody bringing in new equipment and them testing it out. Something that we haven't seen, but I think there's going to be. I agree with Andrew. You know, I think there's going to be something really amazing happen here real soon, and it's just. It's pretty insane. I've had similar visions to it that a lot of people had, and mine started years ago, like over 4 years ago, about this mass contact event, and I don't see them like having like space wars. I see them just like having a lot of ships show themselves, and even have a lot of them landing all at the same time all over the planet. I spoke about this before, and I think this is the beginning of it. You know, there's reports I seen Laura Eisenhower reporting. I don't know if it is verified or not, but sightings over top of Washington D.C. over the past couple days, over top of government buildings. Just, there's all types of stuff coming out, and I think the talk about it, the recent congressional hearings and stuff like that, feeds into it. It feeds into the manifestation of it happening, because more people's minds are open to it now, even if they didn't have one-on-one or have their own experiences. That there's a lot of people that are in Congress and asking these questions that haven't had their own experiences that they can really pinpoint. But even the conversations of this opens up, different energies in them, and that allows more advanced forms of contact to manifest. And I think that's what we're seeing now. And plus, it's the holiday season. There's energy around the holiday seasons. There's a thankfulness. We have a day just for Thanksgiving, and a lot of people don't even connect it back to, pilgrims coming in, having their first meal on the Mayflower, things like that. It's more about being just thankful. It's transformed into more just a vibe day of being thankful, and then we're going into the Christmas season, whether you're Jewish or Christian or Catholic or whatever, whether you have a Christmas tree or menorah or whatever you have, or Kwanzaa or whatever, it's all about like giving, and giving and receiving. So it's another holiday that's based around like a really positive emotion. And then you have the New Year's, which everybody's like overall vibe is like a new beginning, new page, new start. So if you look at the overall, like, I see things very much in a human form. I'm very much a Drew, but I also see like the vibe of certain things. And this holiday season have the days in particular. There's a massive energy going out into the world, into the cosmos, from everybody that's feeling these holidays, and for me, having two babies, these past couple of years, I'm starting to enjoy holidays again, living through them. Before Hawk and Ember came, we celebrated Christmas, but the vibe wasn't there. But when you have small babies and stuff, you get to celebrate Christmas all over again, just as if you were a kid. So that vibe goes out into the universe, and it's magnified by however many people's feeling it. And I think that's what's manifesting. I think that's why we're going to see, that's my prediction too. I think we're going to see something very special happen very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can go with that. I can go with something very special happening very soon. Though, have this information, Cliff High and future forecasters, predicting dates and things, though, is the part that gets me, is the part where I'm like, I don't know, because there's been a lot of times where dates that have been predicted have come and gone without anything happening. And yeah, go ahead.
That's why dates are tricky, man. I've done it a few times before and like put out dates and stuff never happens. That's why I just shy away from it, because it's what I realize. It's hard to put dates on something, because you're dealing with a flash or a vision or trying to interpret a dream or this, that, and the other. When this information comes, but it doesn't unvalidate it. And I sent you a video. We should go over that. It's a clip of an interview I did over 4 years ago, right before the last election, and it was talking about a major contact event after election. I was predicting, and that was over 4 years ago. But I think I had it off.
All right, and we'll take a look at that and more as we get ready to go to break right here. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show, right here with Drew Benke and After Hours Wrap Up. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right here. Don't change the dial. All right, we are clear. Awesome stuff. Now the video that you're talking about, what is it from?
It's from a YouTube interview I did on another podcast.
Okay, because
It's just a clip. It's just a clip. It's just like short clip from it.
okay, it's tough because I got clipped for what we did last night. We played like a 45-second clip of a hockey game, a hockey fight, and NHL struck us on that. So if it's someone else owns the clip, then we can't do it, unfortunately, because of Spaced Out Radio. I can't take the risk. Yeah, but I can play it maybe after the show.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's pretty interesting, man. I talk about it. I think it's, you know, I was getting this. I had this dream, a recurring dream. I was talking about in the clip, and the clip was on. Let's see, man, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but it is. I've done a few interviews with them. They're great guys. You know, it's just two guys that have a really cool interview. I've done a few interviews with them. But I was talking about this. And it's a recurring dream I had, and it was, I think it was September, October, leading up to the election, the last between Biden and Trump, when Biden won, and I was like, I had this really strong recurring dream after the election. In between the election and inauguration, there'd be like some type of mass contact event. And it would happen sometime after election, and it didn't happen. But there's other things that I saw about, you know, Trump being elected and stuff, and Trump being the last president, that come along with that too. That maybe that's why it's hard to put a date on things, because sometimes you see these flashes of something happening, and you think it applies to something, right? You know, within the next couple of months or something like that, and it's actually years, or you know, it's some other time. But now it makes sense, man. So I'm on the mass contact event before New Year's train, you know.
I hope, because I'm team catastrophic disclosure, so I just want it to happen so we can, you know, just move forward, just get past the moment we're in, because, you know, so I really hope that that's true. I really hope something like that happens. I think it's inevitable that some sort of mass thing happens like before. That we had cameras, or real good cameras, back in with the Phoenix Lights, or with some other like aerial school. If they like every kid has a phone nowadays. If it was then, you know, now then, and all those kids had phones, we would have so many videos and pictures of the aerial school incident. It would be insane. So I'm just hoping that we get another one of those events sometime soon. It would be awesome.
I think it's going to be a global event. You know, I think it's just going to be all over. All over. I've been having some weird stuff happen lately. The other day I was using the restroom in the middle of the night, and I was in our bathroom, and a drop of water hit my back. And I look up we have like all wood ceiling, you know, we have like all wood in our cabin, like real wood. And I look up, and I'm just looking for a spot. I'm like, do I have a leak in the roof or something? I looked all over. There's no wet spot at all, but there's a water that dropped from the ceiling and hit my back, but I don't know where it came from. Like, you know, it's just very strange stuff happening, you know, and just getting messages from people like psychics and stuff, and they're messaging me some crazy things, man, like some crazy stuff.
And we have about 45 seconds, about a minute left till we come back from break. And there was a question to see one of the viewers from Psychic Firefighter channel, Horse Lover Pat. Just wanted you to know, you were asking earlier, what channel is this? It's youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. That's the channel that you're watching currently. And we have a lot of stuff here going on 7 days a week. We'd love to see you over here more often and joining in on our conversation. So it'd be totally awesome. And with that being said, we have about 30 seconds left here before we come back from break. I want to thank everybody who is super chatted today. Richard Minnick, Deb from Sacramento, Richard Minnick again, Bob Thorson, and Maggie M10. We do appreciate your support, Spaced Out Radio. Also, Sierra, I did see your question there, and I'll save those for hour 3 when we do like the AMA. So I did check it, and anyone else with questions, put them in the chat, and we'll do an AMA. Here we go, coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, after hour number 2 with Drew Banky in the After Hours wrap up. We definitely want to thank everyone who's come in tonight. Also, if you have already not figured this out, you are traveling through space on a rock right now. You are a space traveler. Consider taking the next step and joining the club. You can join an SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month by joining our Patreon as we jump back into the conversation, kind of going over the wrap up. You were in the middle of a thought, Drew, as we went to break. Do you recall what you were saying in that moment?
I don't.
Yep. If not, don't worry about it. We'll move on to
Oh yeah, just mass contact, man. I think we're in for, whether it's whether it's before January 1st or not. I think it's going to be very soon. We're in for some amazing times on so many levels, and truth's about to come. This is the moment of truth. There's a lot of truths about to come out, and the thing that the thing that keeps going through my mind is, do you believe in magic? And that's been about 3 days. It's been going through my head just all the time. When I start meditating or thinking about anything, I get the song in my head and it says, "Do you believe in magic?" And I hope you do, boy. And that's just crazy things. I think it's going to be a beautiful, wild time that we're going to see.
I thought that was the song you were talking about. Yeah. And there's definitely magical times ahead. I mean, I just got to say, what we have to understand, and what everybody should understand, is there has to be a disclosure moment, whether it's now or whether it's 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. There still has to be a day where disclosure actually happens. So, we're just looking at best case scenarios for when something like that, could happen maybe within our lifetime. And just like I always say, going off historical data, history is a good measurement for the future. And if you look at history, there's been we look over the 80-year period, there's been numerous times where there were events that, if they happened today, would be the event that kicks the door wide open. And we are about overdue for something like that. The same way you try to forecast earthquakes, you can't really do it, but the only thing you can say is that it's an inevitability that something like that is going to happen again soon. It's only a matter of time. So we're in one of these moments where there's been, if we want to count Phoenix Lights as the last major mass sighting, I can't think of, and I may just be overlooking something that happened more recently, but just using Phoenix Lights as a guide, that's almost 30 years ago. That's 27 years ago. There was 4 or 3 years prior to that was the aerial school from the Phoenix Lights, which I consider a mass sighting. And then it was, there was 94. So there was about 28 years prior to that was the Westall School sighting, which was another mass sighting. I mean, so just say in a range, we'll just say every 30 years at this point, because we can point to a few examples of where it was every 30 years. going to Phoenix Lights and then going back to Westall. So you figure if 30 years is the number, then we'd be due for something right about now, since it's been 28 years since the Phoenix Light sighting. If we're going off of history, 30 years being the number, then we probably should expect something within the next few years.
Yeah.
And that's,
And why not a paradigm shifting event? You know,
oh, it will.
not just a historical event, you know, that goes down as a 30-year mark. Like, I'm ready for a paradigm shift, like a global humanity, you know, all of humanity paradigm shifting event. That's what has to happen at this point. You know, it's like it's almost like all these congressional hearings, we're pulling the cork out of a bottle, and we're right there at the tip where, you know, we're getting nervous if it's going to pop too hard or not. And
I'll tell you, all those things you're mentioning were definitely paradigm shifting moments. They just happened at the wrong time. They didn't happen in an era where we had the ability to kind of document it as well as we can today. If any of those same incidents happened today, it would be covered in so many different angles, because the Phoenix Lights that stayed in the sky for so long. There were so many people that saw it. Imagine if each one of those people had a camera phone. You could bet each one of those people would have taken a video for sure, because it wasn't a split second, let me make a decision or I won't catch it sort of thing. It was there for everyone to see for an extended amount of time. And then the same thing with the school. You know, you have kids doing TikToks and recording videos of themselves just because they feel like it, sort of thing. So one of those school sightings would have been for surely captured. And that's one of the things that makes me optimistic and happy with this new next generation, or these, you know, the young generation here, is that they are so quick to pull the camera out and so quick to film that you can almost guarantee that they have the best chances of catching something if they end up seeing something. So it's like they haven't even lived long enough to have the experiences yet, but once they do, they are so good and quick with that camera and that button. They know how to do it. So you can almost guarantee that kids are going to start being the ones coming forward with a lot of this evidence.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it makes me think something that Andrew was talking about during the interview. He was talking about the vibration that you start to feel when something's about to happen, or if you're like, man, I should go outside and look, my ears are ringing, or I'm vibrating, you know, this, that, or the other. And that's we're starting to get into a science that is experienced by, it's a general experience, you know, with UFO sightings and stuff like that. And we're right at the beginning where it's starting to be understood, and eventually it'll be an accepted science, you know, that a vibration is connected with UFO experiencers and things like that. There's a reason why you look at a certain part of the sky. There's a reason why, and it's happened to me. And especially I recognize it when the first couple things that happen, you know, why was I looking in that direction when I saw that? You know, I saw things in the sky during the day, and I was looking at something else, and I saw it. But in retrospect, I was like, man, my ears were ringing before I seen that, you know, or my stomach, my heart started beating fast, or something like that. So a lot of things that Andrew said during the interview brung up a lot of things for me that basically, you know, were confirmations, you know, and I think that's what we need. And that's why all of us sharing our experiences helps, because we can start putting the puzzle pieces together. The more and more that each of us share, we can start to see, okay, this person's having the same experience, this person having the same experience. It might give some validity to my experiences. And I think that's the most important part of sharing like openly, you know, and wholeheartedly, and you know, honestly, and that's how we're going to really solve this and put it together. Until that moment happens where, you know, we have the contact event for the planet happens, not just one particular area, but contact event for the planet.
See, I see it in a different way, because when you say contact event for the planet, those regional events are planetary essentially because of today's time, because of live streaming and things of that nature. So it doesn't matter what part of the planet the event happens in, it will be global in nature as far as the exposure.
No
Because
doubt, no
whoever
doubt,
takes it-
but that's not what division. That's not the vision that I saw. I saw, you know, all major cities having their own event. You know, it's happened. It happens so openly that it can't be denied. You know, because you know just as well as I do, if a event happens in North Korea or Russia, and a video comes out of there, how many people are gonna say it's CGI, it's this, that, and the other? You know, I'm just putting a what if out there. What the vision is, and I'm not saying that, you know, the way social media works, that it's that these videos can travel around the world in a heartbeat. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm saying that the vision that a lot of people are seeing is an event so profound that it can't be ignored by anybody, because it happens by it's seen, witnessed firsthand by the majority of the planet.
Okay. How does it, what type of an event would that be? Do you have an idea? Like, what is
A
to where
mass
everyone
contact event.
once
Mass.
would see it?
I mean, I don't understand the I don't understand the question.
So what type of event, like mass event, that would immediately affect most of the globe at once? What type of event could happen that would be a singular event that
That's
would
just what I said. An event that happens around all major cities,
so
and
multiple events?
yeah, it's a simultaneous multiple event, a global, a simultaneous event happening all around the world at the same time. A decloaking, you know, whatever you want to call it, a decloaking of ships, motherships that are, you know, been all around the planet all the time, and, you know, coupled with face-to-face contacts, like, you know, all at the same time. And we're to a point it can't be ignored anymore. Video, you're always going to have a certain percentage that are not going to believe video. You have to have a one-on-one encounter with this craft, when you know just as well as I do, when that first time when you're like, okay, that could be a satellite, this could be this and that. But when you have that moment, that's like, okay, all the check boxes that I check when I go through looking at something, all of them are marked, and I still don't have an answer for it, and your heart starts to race. That's a moment where it changes you physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. I don't know, like on an energetic level. Like this is an energetic experience that we're having with a highly advanced race. Is it us? I believe I believe wholeheartedly it's us.
So then is it something like Independence Day is what you're talking about, where you got these ships in every major city across the globe that kind
That's a
of just
question
show
you got to
up,
ask
hang out?
yourself. Like, I mean, I don't believe there's another thing I agree with the guest Andrew. Like, I don't think it's gonna be. It's just it's gonna be an amazing moment. You know, I don't think there's gonna be any need to worry. I think there's gonna be a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety, but when it comes down to it, like, this is a highly advanced uh species, race, whatever you want to call it, being, sentient being that's going to be here to interact with us. And it's just another, it's the beginning to another phase, another evolution of humanity, I believe, you know. And that's I wholeheartedly believe that's what we're on the precipice of.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It's just that a lot of people feel that these aliens are here for good reasons, and then to show up everywhere at once all over the globe would could be viewed as intimidating, and kind of as far as first contact goes. So I don't know. I mean, you know, I guess it depends on what their intent is, what message they want to kind of convey, because showing up all over the world at once, you can bet that's going to be a situation. As one person in the chat says, scary. That would be, very scary to a lot of people. So I don't know. Maybe that's the method they use to kind of get the message out. Well, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
It could be scary for a lot of people. I mean, but you got to look at there's a lot of people in the in the chat talking about different tribes and their takes on it, and a mass contact event from star people coming down. Like if you're in a lot of tribes, it would be considered as a prophetic moment. Like it's a matter of perception. And the star people have never been demonized in a lot of the teachings of these spiritual teachings of these tribes. So this moment coming forward, like a mass contact event moment or any contact event moment, it's that they're not looking at it as in a negative aspect like that. So it's a matter of perspective, man. It's there's the Western world. I think the powers to be have used Hollywood and the news to portray a certain way of how this would be, and I think it's embedded in a lot of people, especially here in United States and North America in general. I think it's embedded in us, this certain thing, alien, the movie Aliens, and having a face almost come out and bite Sigourney Weaver on the show back in the day, Aliens. We have that. A lot of us can close our eyes and visualize that moment, and other things that other movies, and it's not by any it's been put out and talked about over the years that Hollywood has been embedded in this social psyops of trying to get us to believe that anybody that is not human, it's almost racist in a way. Seriously. If anybody that doesn't look like us, breathe like us, or don't live on this planet, we all automatically have to distrust them. And I don't know. I don't think it's like that at all. And it keeps getting talked about on people coming through, and especially people talking about high consciousness, that it doesn't exist, man. And I don't think it does. I think we're living the last days of hatred, hierarchy, separateness, all these lower emotions. I think we're living the last days of these lower emotions.
We shall see. We shall see. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. It's all speculative. No one has the answers to any of this stuff. We're just kind of thumbing our way through it and trying to use logic too. What sounds logical? I mean, because I still think at the end of the day, that's what we've been given logic for, is to answer certain questions and figure things out. So I kind of take the, in analogies or theories, and then try to apply logic to that theory. That's what I would say to anyone out there. If you have a theory, you could have a million theories. We could say aliens are going to land and drive up in Rolls Royces, and they're going to do, there's a million things we could say they're going to do. But let's take theories and then let's apply logic to these theories. And then if logic can align with those theories, then I would say let's take those theories a little bit further, or let's keep those on the board, to kind of ponder some more or kind of dive into further. But I think there's so many different outcomes potentially that we could be looking at, and It really just depends on a lot of different factors, like the state of mind of these extraterrestrials. What do they want to? What are the reason that they're here? First of all, which is something we don't even know. What is the intent of them interacting with us? Do they even want to interact with us? And then if they do, like on what level? I mean, there's so many different, I think, things that if we can put those single small pieces together logically, then we could come with one big theory on, what something like that would be, instead of kind of just waiting for the day for it to come, right? But
We never know. But we might be sitting on some alien kid's bedstand, and we might be, one of those things you used to get when you were a kid that had like the ant farms, and they were in like a piece of plastic, and you could see the ants making their little farm. We might be sitting on a alien kid's nightstand, and they might be looking at us right now like that. I don't know. They might be praying to us. We might be gods to them. Who knows? I don't know, man. Like, I think it's gonna be interesting, and I think it's gonna be the only thing we have to worry about is just being open to being amazed. And I think we're gonna be amazed to to the extreme, especially over the next couple of years. I truly believe that.
And my whole thing is that regardless of what the outcome is, you just probably should be ready for something, period. You should prepare for the best, prepare for the worst. Just because we don't know what's going to happen, but it can happen as early as tomorrow. Truthfully, by the time you wake up in the morning, one of these events could have already taken place. I'm always checking the news for things of that nature, and it's just there's no, and that's why when there's dates and things put on things or time frames, I just can't really rock with it. I can if there's a pattern there, then I can kind of understand using patterns to see what a pattern might dictate. But just to grab dates out of the air or grab things out of the air, that's the one where I kind of have to be like, hold up. But people should just know that they need to be ready for whenever it comes, whether, like I said, 1,000 years from now, it could be literally tomorrow, it could be an hour, it could be next 10, 15 minutes. We just have no way to know. But humanity should be ready, and they should prepare for the best, or they should prepare for the worst. It's just being responsible in wanting to see humanity survive or exist down the line. You're doing you would do this for your kids and your grandkids. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, that's the reason I have solar. That's the reason Ella, is always looking into canning and how to cook sourdough. And we have chickens that give us eggs, and we're trying to, and we have, a food storage. We have 6 months of food storage that we have packed away. It's not a matter of, I wouldn't call myself a prepper, but I would definitely call myself, more prepared than most. My solar, every part of my solar I put together, every wire bolt, everything that every single part of my solar from start to finish, all of it has been put together by me. If I have to service it, I know exactly where it is. So.
All right. And what I'll say with that, we have about 30 seconds to break. I used to look at preppers 10 years ago. I used to watch Doomsday Preppers. I used to love the show, but I used to look at it and be like, none of these things will ever happen. Like, why are they even doing this? And it never made sense to me until I got into understanding that, seeing that the world could literally change over nothing and overnight. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take our next break here as we get ready to come back. Hour number 3 coming up right here on Spaced Out Radio. Don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, off camera, we're clear. Off camera break. Here we go. right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 here with Drew Banky. What we're going to do is we're going to run Steve Stockton one more again for the top of this hour. Then we'll come back, answer some questions, and then wrap it up with UFO Weird News of the Week. So here we go. 5 seconds to go, guys, before we come back. Right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 right here with Drew Banky. And we've been talking some great talk for the last hour. We're going to go ahead and jump back into some Steve Stockton here in just a moment. But if you missed any of this awesome show, make sure you hop in the archive, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We have a plethora of content, as Dave says. So let's go ahead and get ready to do that. We'll do Steve Stockton, as I said, and then we'll come back and we'll answer some viewer questions. So make sure you guys get those. I have a few tagged, and then we will end the show with the UFO Weird News. So let's go ahead and jump back in our Steve Stockton bag here as we get ready to go. Here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Did you ever wonder why, in recent years, more and more people seem to be disappearing from our national parks, and at such a higher rate than ever before? While many see these occurrences as unexplainable or seem to think they have a reasonable, rational, or even scientific explanation for it all, there are some of us who know better. Some of us who think otherwise. From UFO and Bigfoot sightings to the bizarre and unexplained missing 411 clusters, many of us are left scratching our heads and wondering what is going on out there in the woods. While there are many folktales and legends into who or what is lurking out there in the woods and forests all around the world, today we're going to focus on one legend in particular, the legend of the Fae or fairy people. While most people seem to think of them as helpful, beautiful, and sparkly, if not a little bit mischievous when thinking of fairies, there are others who have heard the real legends, the real terrifying and strange encounters with these mystical beings in the woods, and have had our visions of them forever changed because of it. Let's take a walk through the deepest, darkest parts of the forest and explain the shockingly terrifying world of the Fae. Could they be the real reason all these hikers and hunters and professionals, children and animals too, have gone missing at such an alarming rate all over the world? It's up to you to decide. Wherever you travel in the world, there's some kind of fairy legend. They differ from place to place, and quite unusually, there seems to be no single point of origin from where they came from or where the story started. In many cultures, it's believed that these tiny beings are actually demoted angels or even demons who lurk and hide in the woods and forest, ready to snatch unsuspecting victims out of our known place and time, dragging them to who knows where. There's also a strong belief for the need to ward them off using charms of protection, usually worn somewhere on the body. If you ever run into one of these beings, be sure not to mention it by name. More commonly, they're referred to as the little people or the hidden people, so as not to summon them unknowingly. So the people who believe this legend of the fairies or the Fae being fallen, whether angel or otherwise, believe they're neither good enough for heaven nor bad enough for hell below. They can appear and disappear at will, which makes it very easy for them to stalk and sneak up on their target. In 1962, in southern England, a farmer's wife reported getting lost in a very remote area of wilderness known to this day as the Berkshire Downs. She recalls how she didn't even realize she was losing her way and became very panicked and confused all of a sudden. She claims to have never switched course and headed the entire time in the same and correct direction towards where she originally intended to go. What she realized later on, though, was that she was actually moving further and further into more remote and desolate parts of the woods, away from any other form of civilization. Eventually, she got very tired and stopped for a few minutes. This is when she heard a sort of murmuring or mumbling coming from somewhere near her, although exactly where she couldn't be sure, as even though it was a clear and sunny day, she couldn't see anyone or anything to accompany the strange voice. Suddenly, as she sat there confused and trying to find the source of the small voice she thought she was hearing, a little person stepped out of the shadows of the woods and directly into her path. The bizarre thing here, though, the figure she describes as most likely male and dressed all in green appeared behind her, though somehow she claims she could see him and knew for a fact he was there. Without saying a word, the little man turned her around and pointed her to the right path back to her home. The figure then disappeared without a trace right before her eyes, and it was only while talking to her husband later on and recounting her bizarre and seemingly stress-induced experience did she realize she had encountered one of the Fae. Lucky for her, this was one of the helpful ones, and not the more commonly known ones who purposefully lure unsuspecting wanderers off their track and bring them to places unknown where they will never be able to find their way back. In Celtic lore, the Fae, or little people, are said to live underground, and any travelers who either knowingly or unknowingly trespass too near these hidden places are said to go missing and are never seen or heard from again. Many people who have had an encounter have reported to being in a place they had never seen or knew existed before, seemingly in the blink of an eye, with no knowledge or recollection of how they got there. Although this seemingly new place was definitely not where they were just a second ago, it still looked enough like where they had just been to make them question their own sanity. These places are familiar, yet unfamiliar, simply giving one an instinctual feeling that they are somewhere other. When they finally, and seemingly just as suddenly, return to where they had left from, always much more time has passed than they had anticipated. With what seemed to be like mere minutes had actually been hours or even days in some cases. Now, let's go to the United States and explore the early Native American legends of Mount Shasta. There were many complaints of even the earliest native settlers on and near this particular mountain of members of their tribe, specifically their hunting parties, who would vanish without a trace, never to be seen or heard from again. This happened so often, in fact, they started to believe the whole area was cursed. They also spoke of a bright stone which traversed the mountain and seemingly swallowed people whole. They were convinced that this stone had something to do with the fairies. Do you believe this area could be cursed? What was this glowing stone? Do you believe that stone has the ability to open up, swallow someone, and close back? Or do you believe this was just a scary story to tell their children in the hopes of keeping them from wandering too far on the mountain alone? On the other side of the world, in northern Sweden, there's a man who, for the sake of this video and out of respect for his desire to remain anonymous, we'll call Joe. Throughout his childhood, Joe would go to his grandparents' house in a deeply wooded area with lots of trees and trails for a young boy to explore. When he was 10 years old, he and his family went to stay at his grandparents' house for the entire summer. Aside from the one main house, there were several smaller cabins on the property, which his grandparents owned, and his family would stay together in these series of cabins for the entirety of their summer vacation. Joe stayed with a group of his cousins in a cabin that was a little less than 100 feet away from his grandparents' main house. This was extremely desolate land, and the closest town was miles and miles away. There was also a lake on the property, and Joe and his cousin's cabin was the closest one to it as well. There's electricity, but no running water, and the family had to collect their own, as going to the nearest town to buy some wasn't a reasonable option, as it would have taken so long for them to get there and return. While the lake was directly in front of Joe's cabin, behind it were very deep, very dark, and very desolate woods. Joe's grandfather would tell many stories to the family about alleged encounters he had had while in those woods, encounters which he didn't know how to explain, as there seemed to be no known words to describe what he was seeing and or experiencing. Joe himself said whenever he was hiking or just wandering around these woods, he always got this sort of creepy and eerie feeling, which he could never shake nor never explain. On numerous occasions, Joe reported seeing little people who would appear and then vanish just as quickly and seemingly without a trace. He claims that when these little people would cross the dirt paths, anyone nearby would freeze in place until they had gone. Now, when his cousin heard Joe telling other family members these experiences he was having, he decided that on the next hike he took with Joe, he would bring it up to joke and possibly tease him about. Obviously, he wasn't a believer. The cousin laughed and pretended to freeze in place while telling Joe it seemed he had come across one of the little people's trails. The boy's grandfather, however, wasn't very happy about this joke and reprimanded the other boy not to ever joke about the little people, especially not while wandering in the woods. The subject was eventually dropped, and they all went home to their respective cabins to retire for the night. In the middle of the night, however, Joe recalls being awakened by some sort of noise outside the cabin. The noise seemed to be coming from everywhere at once, all around the cabin, instead of just one singular place. He likened the noise to bears scratching at the outside of the cabin. It also sounded simultaneously like pebbles or giant raindrops were falling down onto the roof and running down the sides of the cabin. Suddenly, the scratching sounds seemed to be coming from under Joe and his cousin's beds. They were frozen in fear, frozen in place, if you will, with terror from the sound coming from right under where they were each respectively sitting. Eventually, they summoned the courage to get up and run as fast as they could to their grandparents' cabin to tell them what was going on. The next day, the two boys and their grandfather walked the same path in the woods as the day before, where their cousin had made the insult towards the little people, and they scattered candy all around and along the trails. As they did this, they profusely apologized for offending whatever it was in those woods that day and night. Joe thinks it was definitely the little people who had come to teach him and his cousin a lesson on manners and respect. Back in the United States in March of 1886, an Ohio newspaper article in the Bloomington Daily Leader came out involving a man and his daughter. This incident took place years before the article had come out, and the daughter's name is still unknown, while the man's name is Andy. We will call his daughter Sarah for the purpose of this story. Andy and Sarah were living in Dubuque County at the time. According to Andy, in her early teen years, his daughter started becoming sickly and ill all the time, and none of the doctors who examined or treated her seemed to be of any help. Whatever the illness was, it always seemed to return almost as quickly as it would leave. Because none of the physicians seemed to be able to figure out what was ailing her or how to cure it, Andy decided to take his daughter to a monastery and see a man named Father Bernard. Father Bernard was very well respected and considered very wise throughout the community, and upon hearing about Sarah's unexplainable illness, agreed to pray with the young girl. During one of their walks home from praying with Father Bernard, Sarah allegedly turned to her father and told him that it was all useless, that everything Father Bernard was doing wasn't going to help her, and eventually she would be taken by the Fae. Andy didn't pay attention at the time and thought his daughter was just feeling discouraged as she'd been sick for so long. About a year after she said this to him about the fairies, Sarah went missing. She seemed to have left everything behind and disappeared with only the clothes on her back. Searchers almost immediately dragged the creeks in the area and conducted foot searches deep into the neighboring woods for miles and miles, but no one ever found a single trace of Sarah. Because of the lack of any sign of her or evidence as to where she had gone, the locals and law enforcement set their sights on Andy as the culprit who had done something to his own daughter. However, luckily, before any charges were pressed against him, Sarah returned. The story she told as to what happened to her was unbelievable to most, and it's for you to decide now if you believe it or not. Sarah claimed that she had simply been traveling the country with the fairies the entire time she was gone. She recounted being in strange vehicles, invisible to the naked eye. The third day of her return, Sarah informed everyone that the Fae would soon be back for her and she would have to leave again with them. Indubitably, she left again not long after and was never seen or heard from again. The newspaper reported that Andy never changed his story about what had happened to his daughter, and when asked what he believed, he responded with the tales of the fairies from Ireland. Now, if you're thinking all of this talk of real fairies and the Fae folk has started perhaps with modern-day versions of fairy tales and people letting their imagination run wild, then maybe think again.
All right. Once again, appreciate Steve Stockton for going on and dropping that knowledge on us, dropping a cool story on us. We're going to go ahead now and get ready to get into some of your questions here. So let's play a lead in for that.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my belly!
Kick him in the nard! He doesn't have nard! Do it! That man's got nard! You're a monster!
All right, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions that you guys have here tonight. So I'll bring these up one by one. Let's see here. All right. I think I see a few more there as well that have just been added to the chat. So, okay, here we go. All right, first question up was posed from Sierra. Sierra's asking, Robbie G, don't you think that the UFOs don't want us to have a mass sighting because it is so easy for them to do if they wanted to do? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because it would be about the intent, right? What is their intent, like we were talking about earlier? You have to know that to know if the best strategy for them would be to do a mass sighting, or it goes into the intent of why they would want, what would be the purpose of them wanting to do a mass sighting? Is it effective for their purpose or the goal that they want to achieve or not, right? So we essentially were talking about that a little earlier, and I think that's kind of what it is. It's just really hard to say. They could show up one ship, they could show up 1,000 ships. We know there's a lot of ships in the atmosphere. People are seeing them all the time. So they have the ability to pull off a mass sighting if they want to. And they have the ability to pull off just a local sighting if they want to as well. It just really depends on what their intent is and their motive, and kind of going from there. Maybe we'll get the answer from that. Maybe tomorrow will be the day, like I said before, that we'll wake up and we'll have the mass sighting or the local sighting or whatever, anything in between. So that you can talk to that question too if you want, Drew.
No, I don't know. I'm gonna be checking my, my crypto in the morning and stuff like that. But I'm also gonna be checking the news. Always checking the news, just see what's going on. Sometimes things happen and I have no idea they happen. Like I'm not like a big mainstream news person. So usually if it's hitting like the social medias and stuff like that, then I'll look like CNN and see like what the national news is. But who knows what's going to happen, man? I think we're in for exciting times. It's going to be a joyous holiday season. I really do. I really think that.
That's the scary part about it too. Like you said, because even with myself, you can't stay up on the news all the time. So there's going to be times where you miss things. And then there's times, and it really trips me out. And this is the scary part for me, is that I will be focused on the news because I'm like, I want to make sure that I have knowledge about the latest thing that happened, but then somehow, some way, something will happen while I was asleep or just when I wasn't paying attention in that small moment, and then it ends up being this, something that's worth talking about. And I kind of feel like, okay, if I can miss that small thing, I could technically miss the moment that this disclosure thing happens. If it's like a instantaneous thing where it's like, hey, we're here, like I could technically miss that moment, right? And it's just like a scary thing when I think about it, because it just makes me think, it makes me wake up in the morning feeling like something could have happened overnight, and so I need to check something. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it, man. Like you got that's the reality about these congressional hearings. Like it's big news for us, and we talk about it all the time and stuff like that. But like the reality is, how many people didn't watch the congressional hearings or really didn't even look at it because they were trying to figure out, about the election or something going on in the government or the war going on or something like that. So they breezed over that congressional hearing when it's one of the most historic events. Like, it's one of those historic events like that in a congressional setting. They're talking openly about UFOs. They're talking about bodies. They're talking about having biological bodies, biological pilots in the crafts, multi-dimensional UFOs underwater. Like, how many people didn't see outside of our circle? I don't know how well it was digested by the general public. Who knows? I'm in a bubble where most of the people I talk to, it's normal conversation. So who knows? So who's to say that something big might happen and it people don't know about it because they were on vacation or something like that, or doing social media blackout, or doing a cleanse from their phone for a while, and something happens. Who knows?
Yes, and I'll talk to this because we have about about 2 minutes before a break here. It was just a statement that Derek had made earlier during a conversation when we were having about, when I was talking about the kids and them, being in the best position to capture these things. And as I was saying that, he put this comment in there, and it made me think. I'm like, yeah, no, this is the other side of the conversation there. He's saying, I'm afraid for next generation. Kids are being taught to isolate themselves, stay silent, recluse is not good. And that was as I was saying, okay, these kids have all these cameras. They're always taking videos. They're quick on the trigger for videos, so they'd be in the best position to catch them. But then to this point, they are also, they don't go outside much. And that was the thing I was thinking about. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, it is great, but at the same time, they don't really go outside. So that it ends up being the thing maybe that we could focus on is making sure that these kids take their butts back outside, so they are in a position to catch, because you can't see the sky from the side of the house. So
I can't keep my kids inside. Like, I can't keep my kids inside. Like they are constantly going outside. Like it don't matter what the weather is. Like, they're ready to go out.
Yeah, but your kids, they have parents that are already, on this enlightenment path, and so they are technically, different, in a different position than the rest of these other kids who are programmed by society and video games and social media, and so it's a little different. Your kids have that benefit. They're a step ahead of the rest. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a moment to get ready to jump into this next break. But Derek Galloway, that was a great point there, and maybe we need to focus on that. But anyways, you guys don't go anywhere. Sit right back. We're going to go ahead and answer a few more of these questions when we come back, and then also close up the show with UFO Weird News of the Week, Action-packed show to end the weekend right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show, right here with Mr. Rob G and my guy right over there, Drew Banky. We'll be right back right after the break. All right, clear. Yeah, and to kind of further elaborate, yeah, kids, a lot of these kids, and it's been that way. We've seen it for a while. That's why Halloween, I call it trick or treating. I guess the same thing. But these kids weren't out trick or treating. They don't go out and just play in the front yard. Like your kids are different. They have parents that already have been opened and unlocked on, so they got a head start on most of the kids. Yeah,
they're feral.
There we go. That's almost
feral. Feral kids.
That's
dude. Look at this. Look at this patch. Interesting story about this patch. This patch I actually wore in Iraq on my uniform.
Hold on. Let me do this. No.
In 2007.
Oh, nice. Sergeant Banky. Okay. That's what's up.
And then that was actually worn in Iraq, but that's not. But yeah. Anyways,
that's
just a little. Yeah, when Dave was talking about that patch last night about where the name of We Own the Night come from, and I was wearing this, I was like, oh man, it's crazy. I've never wore this, in an interview. It's just kind of chilly and it's nice and warm, so I wore it out here, and it's really crazy.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was actually awesome to be able. It's synchronicities with you, dude. That's just a lot of stuff is weird and is wild. A lot of stuff.
You should see some of my DMs, people messaging me and like stuff that people share, like visions they're having and stuff. Man, I think we're in for a really crazy time.
Yeah,
really crazy time. But anyways, man, that Mike Tyson fight was exciting, wasn't it? It was a real on the edge of your seat.
Good Lord, let's not even go there. I was really sad in a moment, man. I remember when Iron Mike Tyson used to just get rid of guys in 30 seconds. But at first when I looked at it, it was like, okay, is he just past his prime? But then I thought about, okay, now I saw the other videos, like I've seen older guys get rid of younger guys in that way. So I'm just going through all these thought processes. There's no way that could have been the actual Mike Tyson in the ring. Like there had to be, I know he was injured, his leg was injured. So as far as movement goes, that's going to kind of affect that for sure, especially when you're older. But I just felt like there should have been more get after him in him. And I know it's there, but it's like, okay, so that makes me feel like, okay, this was staged then, because there's no way that even Mike Tyson at 58 years old can't go in there and swing those arms. He could do that.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I don't know, man. This is what I want. When the new administration comes in and they're talking about dropping JFK files and UFO files, I want to see the contracts of the Tyson and Jake Paul fight along with the JFK files. I want that I want that in disclosure. Like, I gotta know before I die. I have to know the truth. Like,
on what, JFK?
No, the contract between Tyson and Jake Paul, man. I gotta know what I don't care about the JFK files, man. I gotta know if that was staged or not. Like,
it kind of has to be, dude, because as Joe Monk says, Rob, beware old men that are fighters. We're old for a reason. That's right. I've seen an older guy dust off a younger guy easily.
Dude, he was. I know someone personally that's been to the ceremony with me. They run a gym down in Arizona, and Tyson come in there and he was training before this fight months ago, and she said that he was like lightning fast, and went on for hours. But who knows, man? Like, a lot of people say that it was in the contract. I want to see the contract. I got to know. But one thing that it was almost like those commentators were looking in my living room. They was like, this fight means a lot more to a lot of people, because there's guys here that are sitting there watching this fight with their kids that remember watching this fight as a kid with their father, like when Tyson in his heyday, like, when he was knocking people out, in seconds and stuff like that. And it hit me in the heart, man, because I was sitting there with my son doing the same thing. Like,
coming back from break right now. Right, everyone, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour 2.5. We're in the back half of the final hour right here. We made it work. We got through the trials and tribulations right here. And we could only do that. Only we could do that right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. So make sure if you missed any of tonight's show, it was awesome. Hop in the archive, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and get up to speed. Get right on up to speed as we jump right back into viewer questions. So we addressed this one, the statement by Derek Galloway, and let's go ahead. We have one from Terrence Wills, who says, question is, how can the government say UFOs don't exist, but pay for military people that have been injured by UFOs? $1 million question. $1 million. And here's the thing. Here's how I feel, because this goes to a point that I made recently, right? Like at the end of last year, I believe it was last year. It may have been the year before, one of the two. But I essentially felt like and made the statement that the government has literally drawn the line in the sand and said, we don't care if you see what's going on or not. Like, we don't care if the obfuscation is clear to you. We don't care if it's blatantly clear that we're hiding information. Like, we don't care because we're never going to show it, right? And so that's kind of, the way that I look at this when I see this question is like, how can the government say UFOs don't exist, but they pay for people that have been injured by UFOs? The answer is they simply don't care. They simply don't care how they look. And maybe a part of it is they don't realize how they look, but I think that they probably do realize how they look. And it's just more so that they just don't care. They don't care how you feel or what this looks like to anyone else, because they're just never going to unlock the lock. What do you think, Drew?
I don't care. It's just like Jelly Roll eating boogers. There's a video out there of Jelly Roll eating boogers at a UFC fight, and he just don't care. He's got it's bigger than it's bigger. And that's crazy, isn't it? But they got all seriousness, the military's that they've been doing it for so long. Like, it's not new for them to lie about anything. Like, it's the same irony that they made psychedelics illegal. Well, in the background, they're using psychedelics and studying psychedelics on how to use them, how to spy on other countries through consciousness. Like that, the irony is everywhere, so yeah. It's not surprising at all. And, the question is a question that I don't have an answer for. It just is what it is. But that's way I can describe it. It's just like Jelly Roll eating boogers, man. It's just because he does it because he can.
That's perfect. Okay, next question is from Deb from Sacramento, and she asks, so when we have this energetic encounter, do we shift to a higher dimension or light being state? So that was during, okay, did you mention something about that, Drew? That might be in reference to something you were talking.
Yeah, I think, talking about the mass contact event as being more of an energetic encounter, and it shifts each of us. And I think it's be different for each of us. You know, if you've never seen a ship, it's gonna be the point where your pineal gland opens. If you've already had experiences or open in a certain way, it's only gonna open it more. So I think it's gonna be a case by case basis, but I think it's gonna be a huge jump, like in our process of evolution, the moment of contact.
All right, that's perfect. That's perfect. Let me go into the next question here, which is Terrence Wills saying, "Why do humans always assume they are here for us?" Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Terrence Wills. I don't live in the boat where I feel like they're here for us. I don't necessarily make that just a foregone conclusion. I just don't. I listen to a lot of people because I talk to a lot of people, and I hear a lot of different theories, and I just try to take theories and apply logic to them and see what makes sense. Like I get a hang up with the hybrid program. Okay, I can understand, it sounds okay that they would take humans, but I just don't, the part that I still don't align with or get fully is why they would essentially want to, make human / gray children. And there's different reasons that people say they do that, but it's just like, okay, what makes sense? Like, is it more likely that they're doing something else when they're examining human beings, or is it likely that they're examining human beings so they create all these different babies? They would only need a handful of individuals to kind of get enough DNA to run some sort of hybrid program, because if the mother and father, they're different father, you have an alien mother or father and a human mother or father, however way you want to look at that, you would assume that they shouldn't need every single person on the planet or as many people as claim to be abducted for it to simply be a hybridization program. So, I don't know if they're here for us. I think more so maybe for the planet. I don't know. It's just hard to say. Do you have any answer for that?
Yeah, I think they see the planet as a whole, as the whole ecosystem. We see it as separate because we're in it and we're part of this massive ecosystem. But you lose if bees become extinct. The planet has a couple weeks or a couple months or whatever it is before it can't go on. If all the ants are taken out of the equation on Earth, there's a certain time that they predict that the planet could still live. So it's a symbiotic relationship, this planet. Like, so I believe, like, if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, I think the amazement here and why we're kind of a focus of the universe at this point is because a part of this symbiotic relationship with the planet is becoming consciousness to a point where it can expand outside the planet. Like, essentially, like, consciousness is pretty much like getting your NASA qualification to go out into space. It is your ticket off planet. Consciousness and meditation and meditation in general is your ticket to get off planet, whether it be with psychedelics or not, breath work or traditional, Buddhist meditation or whatever it is. Like that's really your ticket off this planet. And not having to go to Elon or something like that and get on an actual ship. But that being said, we're also part of the process of this planet. We're apex, quote unquote, apex predator, one of the top of the food chain. And we not only interact with it in that way, but we also interact with it in a spiritual, energetic way too. And that's becoming more and more accepted and mainstream as the days, from day to day, it's becoming more and more mainstream, the consciousness connection.
Alrighty. And let's go to Latchkey Hustle. Question, Mr. Rob G. Is Drew aware of any instances of people attempting to remote view beneath the Antarctic ice sheet?
Not that I know of. I would direct your attention to Brad Olson. He's got a lot of cool information on the poles. He's done some exploring and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they have. They've there's been remote viewers that's been all over. So I don't have any specific knowledge about this though.
All right. And Deb from SAC added something here, stated, what if I don't have a pineal gland or it's blocked or been removed by aliens, government, so we can't evolve?
Well, that's just giving your power away. I don't think that's your pineal gland. So I think we're all, made of the same. I think we're all made of the same makeup. So I think we all have a pineal gland. Is it blocked? A lot of us blocked by our own doing and unknowingly, like fluorides in our water. They're talking about, even the new administration talking about fluoride in the water. That goes back, to blocking the pineal gland. But I think that has been the mandate and like a secret project of the powers to be to block our pineal gland. So I think it's very possible that the government has blocked it. But just these conversations alone, eating habits, drinking out of glass jars or like stainless steel. I don't drink out of I try not to drink out of plastic or anything like that. Definitely not any styrofoam. I don't use any plastic in my storage of food or anything like that. Cook on cast iron. Try to eat organic or what I grow here at the home. And those are just a few things of ways that you can start to, clear out your pineal gland, and just meditation. And like I said, these conversations alone will help it.
And Deb says, I think the reason our food is so damaged is to block out pineal glands so we cannot evolve. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think exactly what I was just saying. Yeah.
Okay.
It's made to block our pineal gland. Like it's part of it. Dare I call myself a conspiracy theorist, but I believe it's a prepackaged plan, like to keep us in the dark. If every one of us understands our power, how can you control people that understand that, these magical things? So
with you on that, Drew Banky, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I do appreciate you, sir, for coming in and doing the hour 2 thing and making this happen tonight, sir. Anything you want to leave the audience with tonight?
No, it's beginning of the 11th year of Spaced Out Radio, and I think it's going to be the best years yet coming forward for the radio station, for humanity. Much love and namaste to you, Rob, for having me on and hanging out with me on the week, having me here hanging out with you on the weekends. It's an honor, and much love to everybody. And buckle up. It's gonna be an amazing ride, but trust in the process. I think it's gonna be great.
That's right. Lou Rider DG says, get your toilet paper now. Exactly. All right, Drew Banky, thanks for coming in, man. We'll do it again next week, buddy. You already know. Talk to you soon.
Let's go.
All right, Drew. Later. All right, guys. So we're getting pretty close to wrapping up the show here. We do have some UFO weird news that we're going to go ahead and jump into for the last few minutes. And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. We have a couple stories here. If we can get through them before the show closes. What a man found after visiting a remote island, too radioactive to stay for longer than 3 hours. Too radioactive to live on the island was evacuated in 1946. An American who, quote, gave up the rat race has revealed what he found when visiting a remote Caribbean island that is too radioactive to stay on for longer than 3 hours. Going by the username @vagabondartist over on TikTok, the social media user revealed that he gave up his life back in the United States of America in early 2022, moving to the tiny island of Utila off of the coast of Honduras to live the simple life with his partner. And now, after 4 years of planning and work, he has managed to secure a trip to one of the most radioactive places on the planet. It's no joke either. The island is reportedly too dangerous to live on, and it's harmful to your health to stay there for more than 3 hours at any one time. Dubbed Bikini Island, its technical name is Bikini Atoll, atoll being a fancy word for a ring-shaped island. The island was chosen by the United States government as its base of operations for nuclear weapons testing after the Second World War, asking the 167 people living on the island to relocate due to testing. They said it was for the good of humankind. In total, the U.S. government conducted 23 nuclear tests at Bikini Island, starting with Operation Crossroads in 1946 and the final test coming in 1958, a time in history where the dangerous reality of nuclear weapons was becoming more well known. Bikini Atoll became home to the largest nuclear test ever conducted by the U.S. government when, in 1954, it dropped the Castle Bravo thermonuclear weapon, yielding 15 megatons of TNT, more than twice as powerful as it was expected to be. Quote, "We have to live on this boat because the island is too radioactive for anybody to live there," Vagabond Artist said in his video posted to TikTok in October. Quote, "We are only allowed to go back for about 3 hours." In the late 1960s, the U.S. government attempted to move native islanders back to Bikini Atoll following the end of testing at the site. But 3 years after around 100 people moved back on the island, it was determined that some water wells remained too radioactive for use, with food still inedible. Reports over the years linked miscarriages, genetic abnormalities, and stillbirths to living on the island. As a result, the Bikini community sued the U.S. government, resulted in compensation of $75 million. A further $90 million was allocated for radioactive cleanup. Due to tests on the island, Bikini Atoll was contaminated to the point where any food grown on the island is inedible. By eating this after moving back onto the island, those native to Bikini Atoll were left with higher radiation levels than a normal person. Quote, "Coconuts are one of the main reasons why the Bikinians weren't able to stay on Bikini Atoll at all," Vagabond Artist said. Radiation was about 3 meters underground, would get pulled up into the trees and into the coconuts and end up in what they were eating. And it wasn't just coconuts. It was everything they were eating here. What remains on the island are the buildings constructed by the U.S. government for testing, as well as housing those doing the tests. In his visit to Bikini Atoll, a vagabond artist walks through old kitchens that, after evacuation, were used by a small team of caretakers who took after the island on a rotating basis to limit radiation exposure. But even now, they stand empty, and homes are fully furnished with pots and pans still lining kitchen walls. Quote, when the order came to leave, they just left everything, he said. Some of these homes are just like they were the day the order came. Also on the island is a huge nuclear shelter used by scientists during the 15 megaton Castle Bravo nuclear weapon test. Bikini Atoll remains a World Heritage Site and a reminder of the Cold War and post-nuclear age. Yeah, so we won't have time for the final story, but we can talk about this one. Let's unpack. So the Bikini Atoll, if you do definitely you remember these video scenes that they showed, the old black and white footage where they're on this island or they're out on a ship. It's the one where they blew over the ships. And I know everyone has seen that, but it just goes to show you like the devastation that humanity has caused, not only just humanity, but in this case, you know, the United States government, where they're just doing things and not understanding the risks. Because how do you go and perform all these tests on the island and immediately try to relocate the inhabitants back onto the island, where, you know, and that goes to also the nuclear tests that were done right here in the United States, that were done right here in the Nevada desert, which is about 3 miles or 300 miles east of where I'm at currently. And I've driven there. I've driven right through there. And you know, they did above ground tests there, exposing soldiers to radiation levels that were probably extreme and outrageous. And this was less than 100 years ago. So you have to look at it and think, you know, do we as the United States, being the most powerful country in the world, always have everyone's best interests at heart? You know, do we know that these things affect people, but still allow people to be exposed to things like this? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Hopefully disclosure changes all that. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and thank our guest for tonight, Andrew Radziewicz, who we will be having back soon, hour one. I want to thank Drew Banke for hanging in here and making it a great show tonight, hours 2 and 3, along with Steve Stockton. Missing Person Mysteries, Tales Untold. And I also want to thank the guy that you hear right now playing and rocking us out each and every weekend, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Doll, the one who shows us and tells us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomena is real, which means anything and everything is possible. So if you enjoyed the show tonight, make sure you show your love by throwing your horns up. Also, I want to thank you, all the listeners and viewers, wherever and whenever in the world you may be listening from. We appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, the only place where you can own the night. We also want to go ahead and thank everyone who showed up tonight in the chat. We want to also go ahead and let you know that this show is copyright Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media Ventures Limited. Once again, it's a pleasure being your host tonight. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours radio show. And to all you space travelers out there, this is not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, you can best believe as we go off air for the night, we will be back soon. Much love and take care. All right. Awesome show, everyone. Awesome show. Definitely want to thank everyone who came in tonight supporting the show. Want to thank Richard Minnick for your awesome support, Space Out Radio. Deb from Sacramento. Richard Minnick again. Bob Thorson, Maggie M10, and Deb from Sacramento. Totally appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and get ready to end this show tonight, I'm just going to leave you with the outro, the awesome outro. We're going to rock right on up out of here, guys. We want retribution, right? That's what we want. Okay, let's go ahead and get up out of here. You guys take care. I will see you guys next week.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.